Chapter 957. Then let's go. Xiao Qin was anxious. Now that Jia Muzhen agreed, he wanted to leave. Wait. Jia Muzhen said, I need to go back to the dormitory with my token. Otherwise those two might not recognize me. That's fine. Qing Yaoyao and I will go first. It's in the neighborhood from yesterday. Hurry over. Xiao Qin nodded and explained to Dong Zhiqi. Then he ran to find Qing Menjing. Jia Muzhen didn't hesitate. He handed his work to another club member and ran out in a hurry. He accidentally bumped into Ling Qianxue. Ling Qianxue exclaimed and looked at Jia Muzhen strangely. Why are you so flustered? I'm sorry. Jia Muzhen said apologetically. Xiao Yi said that Tian Suruan is in danger and he needs to go help. That's why I want to go and take a look. Jia Muzhen thought that Ling Qianxue was already Xiao Yi's woman, so he didn't hide it and told her the situation. I see. Then hurry up. Ling Qianxue waved her hand and looked at Jia Muzhen's back. She frowned. Tian Suruan is in danger? Little Miss Xing happened to be busy at the side. She heard Jia Muzhen's words without missing a single word. She was immediately overjoyed. Xiao Yi is going to help? Help with what? Why would he help Tian Suruan? Aha, this is an important clue. Qianxue. Let's go and take a look. I've been waiting for this rare opportunity. Little girl Xing grabbed Ling Qianxue and dragged her in the direction that Jia Muzhen had left. Ling Qianxue was stunned. She knew this was bad. This time they were really done for. Jia Muzhen must have let his mouth slip, and that last Xing heard it. But she had no other choice. She could only follow. She couldn't go against Xing Qianxue's wishes, could she? The two of them hurriedly walked out of the martial arts club's side door and happened to see Xiao Qin carrying Qing Menjing into the air. They stepped on their flying swords and flew in the direction of Su Chuxia's house. Qianxue, look. He's definitely Xiao Qian. Let's go. Hurry up and catch up. I want to see how he's going to deny it this time. Seeing this scene, Miss Xing couldn't help but be extremely shocked. She dragged Ling Qianxue and chased after him towards the school gate. Just outside the school gate, she just happened to see Jia Muzhen hailing a taxi. She rushed up like an arrow, directly pulled open the back door, sat in and pulled Ling Qianxue up. Let's go. Let's go. As soon as he sat down, Miss Xing slapped the back of the seat and shouted. The driver was so scared that he trembled. He stepped on the accelerator and sped off like an arrow. Jia Muzhen first gave the driver Su Chuxia's address, then glanced behind him in confusion. It made sense if Ling Xiaoxue was going with him, but why was Xing Gongzi rushing over as well? What did he want to do? However, seeing his aggressive appearance, Jia Muzhen didn't dare to ask anything. He could only speculate in his heart. Could it be that he wants to see Xiao Yi make a fool of himself and then take Ling Xiaoxue back? It seemed like this was the only possibility. Ling Qianxue was extremely depressed. She wanted to find time to send a message to Xiao Qin, but Miss Xing was closely following her. She didn't even have a chance to take out her phone. Helpless, she could only give up. When the time came, she would just take it one step at a time. In Su Chuxia's house in Jingji district, Xishan Ghost, who had been bitterly holding on for half an hour, was gradually showing signs of weakness under He Yu's fierce attacks. On the other side, Nie Xiaoyu was already injured. However, Bai Qi didn't follow up with another attack. Firstly, Nie Xiaoyu seemed to have gone crazy, holding a stance of fighting to the death. Secondly, he was still injured and couldn't fight for long. Anyway, He Yu alone was enough to kill these two weak-yin cultivators. Bai Qi didn't intend to go too far, so he simply sat down and continued to heal his injuries. Chuxia, Sister Sour is so pitiful. It's already so dangerous now, but Xiao Chang still hasn't come to save me. It seems like he has a new lover and won't return to Sister Sour's side. Sigh. Tian Sour sighed heavily and said with incomparable melancholy. Originally, she still had a glimmer of hope in her heart, hoping that Xiao Chang would descend from the sky to save her. Even if he couldn't come in time, at least he could reply. In the end, nothing happened. It's already such a critical moment and you're still thinking about useless things. Maybe he's on a mission and can't turn on his phone? Su Chuxia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She glared at her and said exasperatedly, You clearly had a chance just now, why didn't you run away? Why should I run? Sister Sour was so scared that her legs turned to jelly. She couldn't even stand up. Besides, the monk can run away but the temple can't run away. They can even find out where you live, so where else can I run to? Tian Sour said helplessly. Then what should we do now? Su Chuxia was also at a loss for words. Forget it, Sister Sour should just bite her tongue and commit suicide. It's too ugly a way to die by jumping off a building. Moreover, we'll be surrounded by people. Who knows, It might even become the headline on Weibo or WeChat moments. Sister Sour can't afford to be embarrassed like that. Tian Sour looked out of the window again, then quickly retracted her head and muttered to herself. Hearing Tian Sour's strange thoughts, Su Chuxia was instantly speechless. However, she was also quite annoyed. Sour was her best friend, but now that she was in danger, there was nothing she could do. All she could do was watch as others took her away. And that Xiao Chang really? Tian Suruan was his girlfriend after all. Now that they were in danger, he actually didn't even reply to her message. Could it be that he really fell in love with someone else? But he didn't seem like that kind of person. Ah. Just as the two ladies were deep in thought, old ghost Shishan suddenly let out a scream. It turned out that he had made a mistake and was hit in the shoulder by Heiyu. He was sent flying and smashed into the wall. His internal organs were all shaken. Fortunately, he was still breathing and did not die immediately. You're just a small Yin cultivator. How dare you go against the inner martial arts sect? You're simply asking for death. Heiyu snorted lightly and looked at old ghost Shishan disdainfully. He then turned around and went to find Tian Sour. You. Old ghost Shishan struggled for a while, but he could not stand up. Nye Xiaoyu, who was also seriously injured and lying on the ground, was also helpless. Staring at Tian Sour, who was in the corner, Heiyu said sinisterly, Tang Sourhorn, stop resisting pointlessly. Be obedient and follow us back to the Jia family. Don't come over. Sister Sour's boyfriend will be here soon. He's very powerful. He can fight more than 10 of you by himself. If you dare to touch a single hair on Sister Sour's head, he will definitely not let you off. Tian Sour curled up in Su Chuxia's arms. Although he was very afraid, he still bit his lip and bluffed. Chapter 958. Heiyu suddenly reached out and plucked Tian Sour's hair. He placed it on his index finger and blew it away. Then he smirked. What did you just say? You pervert. Men and women shouldn't touch each other. Who gave you permission to pluck my hair? Tian Sour immediately covered her head and grumbled. Heiyu snorted at Tian Sour's childishness. He pointed at Su Chuxia and smiled wickedly. Tang Sourhorn, let me tell you. Not only will I pluck your hair, but I'll also make your friend happy with us. Think of it as compensation for Junior Bai's injury. Ah. You're shameless. Su Chuxia was infuriated. She clenched her fists and wanted to say something back, but after a long while, she could only force out one word. She turned her head to the side to avoid Heiyu's perverted gaze. However, to Su Chuxia's surprise, when she tilted her head to look out the window, she saw a black dot in the sky. It was getting bigger and bigger, and it seemed to be flying towards her at a very fast speed. Sour, get out of the way. Something's flying towards us. Su Chuxia didn't have time to think. She quickly pulled Tian Sour away from the window and shielded her and her head with her hands. Don't play dumb. Do you think I'll be scared by such a childish lie? Heiyu thought that Su Chuxia was playing tricks on him. He sneered and walked toward the two of them unhurriedly. When he got close, Heiyu reached out to grab her. Tian Sour was at her wit's end. She could only close her eyes and shrink back, praying for a miracle. Bam! There was a loud noise. A black figure suddenly flew through the window. Before Heiyu could grab Tian Sour, he was sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. Tian Wangsho waited for a long time, but there was no movement. He couldn't help but open his eyes a little and saw that Heiyu had fallen to the ground. Not far away stood two familiar figures. It was Xiaoyi and Qing Yaoyao. Her mouth fell open in shock. Holy *T, why is Counterattack Man here? You can actually fly? It's too magical. Xiao Qin ignored Tian Sour's yelling. He first put away his flying sword and ran over to check on Ye Xiaoyu and old ghost Shishan's injuries. Both of them were seriously injured, so Xiao Qin immediately injected primordial qi to heal them. Who do you think you are? Don't be a busybody. Looks like you're also a cultivator, right? Let me tell you, we are from the Jia family of the Internal Wulin. Are you afraid? Scram if you don't want to die. Although Heiyu was hit just now with his strength, it was not a big deal. He quickly stood up, glared at Xiao Qin and threatened him fiercely. Heiyu was a little puzzled. How did these two people fly in through the window? Could it be that they were experts from the secular world? He often appeared in the inner martial arts world and had a lot of contact with the disciples of various sects, but the faces of the two people in front of him were extremely unfamiliar. Besides, this was a 15-story building. Normal people should enter from the main entrance. Wasn't the way these two people appeared too shocking? Heiyu thought for a moment. Even with his cultivation, he might not be able to fly into the 15th floor. The cultivation of the two people in front of him should not be low. That was why he did not attack them immediately. Instead, he chose to introduce himself to test them. Bai Qi also opened his eyes. Although he had not fully recovered, seeing that the situation in front of him was not right, he did not dare to adjust his breath and quickly stood beside Heiyu. Afraid of your grandma's leg. The two of you are here to die, aren't you? Xiaoqin glanced at Heiyu and Bai Qi and sneered coldly, Tian Sauer is my wife. I don't care where you are from. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and go back to the inner martial arts world and we will forget about this matter. Otherwise, believe it or not, I will beat you up until you beg for mercy. What the F***ck, when did this counterattack man become so awesome? Tian Sauer tilted her head and looked at Xiaoqin. She secretly muttered, but when did Sister Sauer become your wife? Why didn't I know? Although she felt that Xiao Yi was quite handsome when he broke through the window, she was still a little unhappy. How could a toad want to eat a swan's meat? Sister Sauer has a boyfriend, okay? Su Chuxia glared at Tian Sauer and said angrily, Sauer, when did you become so stupid? You still can't tell? This person is your Xiao Chang. Why can't you even recognize his voice? When Xiao Yi broke through the window, Su Chuxia was a little surprised. How could an ordinary person have such strength? Later, Su Chuxia saw him directly run to save Nie Xiaoyu and Shishan Old Ghost. The two of them were also very respectful to Xiao Yi. When she heard his voice and thought of Xiao Yi's surname, Su Chuxia immediately understood. What? Tian Sauer exclaimed. Only then did she realize that Xiao Yi's voice was so familiar. It turned out that he was Xiao Chang. He was Sister Sauer's real boyfriend. But why did he change into such a loser's mask? Didn't he look quite good before? Tian Sauer turned around and saw Qing Minjing standing at the side. She couldn't help but touch her face and say, then why is Xiao Chang with Qing Yaoyao? She's so ugly. She's far inferior to Sister Sauer. Do you know how to speak? We came all the way here to save you. It's fine if you're not grateful, but you actually said that I'm ugly? Qing Minjing heard Tian Sauer's words and was extremely angry. Seeing that Xiaoqin didn't hide it anymore, she decided to return to her original appearance. However, because Qing Minjing was too angry and her emotions were fluctuating intensely, she failed to control her primordial qi the moment she withdrew the illusion. A portion of her primordial qi leaked out, revealing a cultivation that was equivalent to a sixth-layer devil general. Heiyu and Bai Qi were instantly shocked. Heiyu swept away his arrogant attitude and stuttered, You're actually a stage 6 devil general. He was very surprised. Although his strength was similar to the other parties, he didn't dare to act rashly. After all, he didn't know how strong that man was. Bai Qi and Heiyu looked at each other and carefully probed, Where did you come from? Could it be that you're also disciples of the inner pugilistic world? Stop talking nonsense. Are you guys going to scram or not? Do you want me to send you on your way? I might as well send you to heaven for free. Xiaoqin stood up and said impatiently after he finished healing Nie Xiaoyu and Old Ghost Shishan. From the looks of it, these two fools would not shed tears until they saw their coffins. Xiaoqin already had the intention to kill them. He was thinking of killing them directly to prevent any more trouble from arising from the long night. Chapter 959. Just as Xiaoqin was about to make his move, a few figures hurriedly ran in from outside. It was Jia Muzhen, Ling Qianxue and Little Miss Xing. They had hailed a taxi, and their speed was incomparable to the flying sword, so they arrived a little late. The moment Little Miss Xing stepped through the door, she saw Qing Minjing standing not too far away. She immediately understood that Xiao Yi was definitely Xiaoqin. However, even though she had confirmed the situation, she did not intend to participate in this matter. She only stood at the side and watched coldly. Ling Qianxue, on the other hand, stood beside Xing Yanxue and looked at Xiaoqin anxiously. She wanted to tell him that Xing Yanxue had already discovered his true identity, but Xiaoqin gave her a reassuring look, telling her not to worry. You two stop. Who allowed you to come to the secular world to cause trouble? You've turned a deaf ear to the agreement of the internal martial arts circle, haven't you? We agreed that you could not enter and leave the secular world as you please, and that you could not attack ordinary people. Have you forgotten? Jia Muzhen did not hesitate as he strode forward, pointed at Heiyu and Bai Qi and reprimanded them. Who are you? How dare you make such a big fuss here? Do you know who we are? Heiyu did not hesitate as he stared at Jia Muzhen and asked. Looking at his loser appearance, he was probably an errand boy of the martial arts world. He was definitely here to play the hero and save the damsel in distress. I am the young master of the Jia family, Jia Muzhen. This is my identity jade card. Open your dog eyes and look clearly. Jia Muzin immediately showed his identity jade card and said with a solemn expression. Jia Muzin? Ah. So what? We are young Master Huoyan's men. Yu and Bai Qi were stunned at first, then they laughed together. It seemed that they did not put Jia Muzin in their eyes at all. From their point of view, young Master Huoyan was the true successor of the Jia clan. He was the rightful young master of the Jia clan. Jia Muzin was just a branch descendant without any power or influence. He would never amount to anything. Jia Muzin didn't expect the two of them to be so arrogant. He naturally knew that Tang Xuanjia was Jia Huoyan's fiancée. However, the two of them were Jia Huoyan's subordinates, yet they didn't know how to differentiate between superiors and inferiors. They didn't place him, the Jia family's young master, in their eyes at all. Jia Muzin couldn't help feeling somewhat angry. As the Jia family's young master, I order you to step down. Don't be presumptuous here. Actually, Jia Muzin did not want to make things too difficult for Yu and Bai Qi. From his point of view, as long as he could stall for a while and let Tian Suruan escape, it would be fine. As for whether the family members that came later would listen to him or not, it did not matter. Hehe. The young master of the Jia family? What kind of bullshit young master are you? After this year's clans tournament, our young master Huoyan will become the true young master of the Jia clan. Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you order us around? Yu sneered and snorted disdainfully. This Jia Muzin was merely a fringe descendant of the Jia clan. Sooner or later, he would be trampled under young master Huoyan's feet. Yu and Bai Qi had a strong backing, so they naturally treated him like transparent air. Jia Muzin was so angry that he clenched his teeth and clenched his fists. He coldly snorted and said, Humph. Don't think that I don't know that without the help of the Tang clan's experts, Jia Huoyan's strength is nothing. Relying on others to grind points in the clan's tournament, what kind of ability is that? If you have the ability, then let him come out and fight fair and square. Speaking of this matter, Jia Muzin felt indignant from the bottom of his heart. Originally, with his solid cultivation and strength, he would definitely be able to obtain an outstanding result in the clan's tournament. Although he was a fringe descendant, he still had the qualifications to compete for the position of Jia clan elder. In the end, because he did not have a good relationship with Jia Huoyan, he was ridiculed, and humiliated in every possible way. In a fit of anger, he left the Jia clan and wandered off to the secular world. In the end, even Jia Huoyan's subordinates dared to look down on him. This was simply intolerable bullying. Idiot, I think you've become stupid from studying too much, right? For a clan to prosper, the patriarch does not necessarily need to be very powerful. The key is to rely on connections, understand? If you have the ability, then go and find an external helper. Tiske, no wonder you could only be ostracized and run away from home, while our young master Huoyan was able to rush to the top in the clan's tournament. This is strength, understand? Idiot. Bai Qi mocked and ridiculed. Fawning on those in power, shameless scum. Jia Muzin was so angry that his chest heaved up and down. Bai Qi's words just happened to poke at his sore spot. For a moment he did not know how to refute. His parents had passed away early, and he had always been in a marginal position in the Jia clan. Where could he find external helper? Wasn't Jia Huoyan's external helper also found by his parents and elders? Xiao Qin had been quietly watching from the side. He finally understood Jia Muzin's experiences. It seemed that this brat was quite unlucky. Although he had the strength of a 10th-layer martial general, he was ostracized by the direct descendants. No wonder he had fallen to the point where he ran to the secular world to study and refused to go back no matter what. Jia Muzin, do these two people have a grudge against you? Xiao Qin glanced at Jia Muzin and saw him nod his head helplessly. Xiao Qin then played down the situation and said, since that's the case, then they can go die. Menjing, kill them. There's no point in keeping them. Qing Menjing glared at Xiao Qin but did not move. This fellow spoke so easily. Could it be that he did not know that after accidentally killing someone in the karate dojo, he already had a shadow in his heart? He actually dared to order her to kill someone. How could he be so lacking in morals? Oh, that Xing chick, you go kill them. Feeling Qing Menjing's murderous gaze, Xiao Qin couldn't help but shrink back. He immediately became timid and turned around to order Xing chick. Umph. Xing chick snorted and glanced at him. She also did not move. She still crossed her arms in front of her chest and lazily stood there watching the show. It seemed that she did not listen to Xiao Qin's words at all. Ling Qianxue, who was standing behind Xing Chick, was a bit puzzled. She was originally quite nervous, afraid that young Master Xing would make things difficult for Xiao Qin. However, it didn't seem like that was the case. Also, Why could Xiao Qin so casually order young Master Xing around? Could it be that there was some sort of agreement between them? Or could it be that young Master Xing had been blackmailed by Xiao Qin so Xiao Qin could use it to threaten him? He Yu and Bai Qi looked left and right. Their originally arrogant expressions became a bit confused. What was going on? This guy seemed to be bossy, but why did no one seem to care about him? Could it be that he was another pretentious prick? Yeah. Forget it, let me do it. Really, even an expert like me doesn't want to fight these weaklings. Even if I beat them up, it won't give me any experience. What a waste of energy. Xiao Qin hit a wall on both sides and could only helplessly shake his head. He casually waved his hand, and the flying sword that was originally lying under his feet suddenly floated up and shot towards He Yu and Bai Qi. Chapter 960. When the two of them saw a bright light flying over, they didn't pay much attention to it. They thought that Xiao Qin was just acting. He probably used a hidden weapon like a dart or a dagger to intimidate them, so they didn't think much of it. Just as He Yu and Bai Qi were about to use their mental cultivation to dodge, they were shocked to find that their bodies had been locked on by an extremely powerful aura. They couldn't move even if they wanted to. They could only stare at the flying sword that was emitting a bright light as it flew closer quickly. Whoosh, whoosh. The sound of breaking through the air could be heard. The flying sword directly pierced through He Yu and Bai Qi's hearts. They didn't even have time to scream before they fell straight to the ground. Blood kept flowing out of their chests. Their faces were still filled with shock and fear, but their bodies were motionless. They were obviously dead. Ah, you killed them? Jiang Yuzhen was shocked. He looked at the two bodies on the ground, then looked at Xiao Qin who had an indifferent expression after killing them. He stuttered and couldn't even speak clearly. Yeah, I killed them. Since they weren't with you, it doesn't matter if they're dead. Xiao Qin shrugged. He looked left and right with the flying sword and said indifferently, "It was just killing two idiots." Xiao Qin didn't care at all. Anyway, he didn't need to hide anything anymore. Furthermore, with his strength at the peak of the 9th level of the Golden Core stage, even if he confronted Qixing head-on, there was nothing to worry about. 7th level of the Demon King. You're actually at the peak of the 7th level of the Demon King? A shocked voice sounded. Qixing stared at Xiao Qin in disbelief. Because Xiao Qin's attack was too fast and his cultivation was immediately released, Qixing couldn't specifically judge his strength. However, just based on the aura emitted by the flying sword, he was at least at the peak of the 7th level of the Demon King. Or even higher. Qixing's mind was already in a mess. When she fought with Xiao Qin previously, Xiao Qin was only at the 2nd level of the Demon King. After not seeing him for a few months, he had actually advanced to the peak of the 7th level of the Demon King. How is this possible? It was like riding a rocket. No, it was like leveling up at the speed of light. One couldn't blame Miss Xing for looking at Xiao Qin as if he was an alien. It must be known that for an expert at the level of a Demon King, every advancement was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. They would often be stuck at a certain level, unable to advance for 10 or 20 years. Even though little Qixing was also an expert at the 10th level of the great perfection of the Demon King realm, that was because she was known as a genius girl. She had spent more than 10 years cultivating with countless treasures of heaven and earth. She paid no attention to the affairs of the world and immersed herself in hard training. She had taken one step at a time. Hence, when Miss Xing saw how Xiao Qin had risen to such a high level in just a few months, she couldn't understand his method of leveling up. "Oh right, you're here." Xiao Qin acted as if he had just noticed Xing Lass's existence. He smiled and said, "Let me ask you, why hasn't Ma Baiji come to find me yet? Hurry up and ask him to come over. I'll show him how a dragonfly flies. No, it's a centipede flies. I'll make him fly down from the 15th floor." You. Little Qixing was instantly speechless. She was a little annoyed in her heart. This guy is really a villain. Isn't he just at the peak of the 7th level of the Demon King realm? I thought he was amazing. Xiao Qin smacked his lips and said with a face full of regret, "You should ask him to be quick. I've never seen a centipede fly in my entire life." Little Qixing was so angry that she directly turned her face away. She didn't want to see Xiao Qin's proud face. However, when she turned her head, she saw Nye Xiaoyu and Shishan Old Ghost sitting there adjusting their breath. It seemed like they were also Xiao Qin's partners. This time little Qixing was even more surprised. She didn't expect Xiao Qin to actually cooperate with a ghost cultivator. She suddenly became alert in her heart. No way. I have to quickly report to the sect. Xiao Qin is too dangerous. Keeping him around will be a problem in the future. Thinking up to this point, little Qixing turned around and quickly left Su Chuxia's house to report to the sect. However, she didn't call Ling Qianxue again. From little Chick Xing's point of view, Ling Qianxue had already lost her value. There was no need to bring her along anymore. Looking at little Chick Xing's departing figure, Ling Qianxue hesitated for a while. In the end, she didn't follow. At this time, Tian Shaoring finally reacted. She suddenly jumped up and screamed, "Wah wah wah! You damn counterattack! Damn Xiaochang, you've been lurking around Sister Shaoring all this time. Why didn't you appear? You made me worry about you every day. You saved Sister Shaoring again. That's great." As she screamed, Tian Shaoring rushed over and suddenly hugged Xiao Chen. She buried her entire head into his chest and kept rubbing back and forth. "Damn. Xiaoyi, you're really awesome. He actually managed to turn the tables on Tian Shaorshu? You're really awesome." Seeing this scene, Jia Muzin couldn't help but widen his eyes. He gave Xiao Chen a thumbs up and said with a face full of envy. Actually, in the inner martial world, those sect masters or family heads basically had 3 or 4 wives. Jia Muzin didn't think much of it. After all, Xiao Yi's strength was obvious. But the key was that Xiao Yi's girlfriends were of high quality. Looking at this room, there was the delicate and cute Cheng Menjing, the shy and reserved Ling Qianxue, the sexy and hot Tian Shaoring. Spring orchids and autumn chrysanthemums all had their own characteristics. No matter which one of them was picked out, they could all reach the level of the school belle. This was what Jia Muzin found the most inconceivable. Cough cough. When Cheng Menjing saw that Tian Shaoring actually took the initiative to pounce on Xiao Chen, she felt a little embarrassed. She glared fiercely at Xiao Chen. "Can't you see that your fiancé is still here? Xiao Chen, you should at least pay attention to your image. Can't you wait until there's no one else to show off your affection?" "It's okay." Xiao Chen's head was covered in a waterfall of sweat. He looked at Jia Muzin speechlessly. This guy doesn't know how to look at the situation when he speaks. Cheng Menjing is already spewing fire, but he still adds oil to the fire. He doesn't intend to let me live. Yeah, I'm sorry." Tian Shaoring finally came back to her senses. She raised her head from Xiao Chen's embrace and realized that Cheng Menjing was looking at her coldly. She was instantly shocked and quickly left Xiao Chen's embrace. Her expression was a little bashful as she said awkwardly, I was too excited just now and I couldn't control myself. You are Xiao Chang's real girlfriend, right?" "Of course not," Cheng Menjing said snappily. Tian Shaoring was stunned. Before she could react, she heard Cheng Menjing continue, "I am his wife." Tian Shaoring was stunned. She was even more afraid in her heart. She didn't have her usual carefree attitude. Instead, she carefully explained, "Actually, there's nothing between Xiao Chang and me. We were just playing around in the past. That's why I asked him to pretend to be my boyfriend. Please don't mind him." Chapter 961. Cheng Menjing didn't say anything else after seeing how submissive Tian Suruan was. Originally, she was indeed a little angry, but seeing Tian Suruan's humble attitude and the fact that he had just experienced a thrilling experience, Cheng Menjing's heart softened. She didn't care and said lightly, "It's okay, I'm not angry. Let's clean up the room first. It's a mess everywhere and there are 2 dead people lying on the ground. It's quite unlucky." Seeing that Cheng Menjing didn't mind, Xiao Chen was touched. He quickly changed the topic and started to clean up. Su Chuxia walked over and wanted to help, but Xiao Chen stopped her and said in a low voice, "Chuxia, go and accompany Suruan. I think she's still scared. You should comfort her." Seeing Tian Suruan standing at the side pitifully, Su Chuxia's heart ached. She nodded and went to comfort Tian Suruan. Although Jia Muzin had a lot of questions in his heart, he didn't ask them immediately. Instead, he helped Ling Qianxue clean up the mess. After Nie Xiaoyu and old ghost Shishan finished adjusting their breathing, they got up and walked to Xiao Chen. Thanks to Xiao Chen's primordial qi, their injuries were basically healed. Seeing that the matter was over, they were ready to leave and continue their cultivation. "Xiaoyu, old tortoise, thank you for your help today. If there are suitable cultivation resources in the future, I'll inform you immediately." Xiao Chen didn't ask them to stay. The 2 yin cultivators consumed a lot of yin qi during the day, so it was better to let them go. Of course, this was not important. After Nie Xiaoyu became a martial master, she could move around during the day. The problem was that Xing Chick saw the 2 yin cultivators and ran off to God knows where. Xiao Chen was a little worried. God knows if this chick would make an issue out of this to trick him again in the future. Therefore, it was better to reduce the exposure of Nie Xiaoyu and Ling Qianxue. "You're welcome. This is what I should do. You've saved me several times before," Nie Xiaoyu said with a smile. "Thank you, Master, for healing us." Xiao Yu and I will take our leave first. Old ghost of Shishan's voice was very creepy. Qing Minjing happened to walk by with a trash can in her hand. She was so scared that she took a step back. Old ghost Shishan didn't dare to stay any longer. After bidding farewell to Xiao Qin, he left with Nye Xiaoyu. Xiao Qin, where did you get to know these two guys? Why are they so creepy? What the hell are they? After Nye Xiaoyu and the others left, Qing Minjing felt that the temperature in the room had finally returned to normal. That's right, they are ghosts. To be precise, it should be a yin cultivator, right? Jia Muzin's eyes shone as he looked at Xiao Chen and asked. That's right. That's right. Xiao Chen nodded and said, Minjing, you don't have to worry. Although they are ghosts, they are not bad people. Jia Muzin couldn't help but frown when he heard what Xiao Chen said. He didn't have any discrimination against yin cultivators, but he still kindly reminded him, Xiao Yi, listen to me. Don't have any contact with yin cultivators in the future. I heard that yin cultivators will suck the essence of cultivators. They are not kind people. Many masters in the martial arts world hate yin cultivators to the bone. They will kill them on sight. If the news that you are in contact with them gets out, it makes us a lot of trouble. Knowing that Jia Muzin was thinking for his sake, Xiao Qin didn't refute. He just smiled helplessly and said, I'm afraid it's too late. Xing Chick left in a hurry just now. I guess she went to report the news. You mean Xing Gongzi? He is actually from the martial arts world? But why did you call him Chick? He clearly... Could it be? Jia Muzin suddenly seemed to understand something and looked at Xiao Qin meaningfully. It's exactly what you think. But it doesn't matter. If you want to report it, go ahead. I'll deal with it when it comes. Xiao Qin shrugged. Jia Muzin looked at Xiao Qin and secretly cursed. This Xing Gongzi has been following Xiao Yi since school started. He even offered Ling Xiaoxue to him. There must be something fishy going on. Maybe it's another love debt for Xiao Yi. TSK, he doesn't look good. I didn't expect him to have such a romantic history. Xiao Qin didn't notice Jia Muzin's gaze. He turned his head and saw that Tian Suren's mood was slightly better. He walked over and comforted him. Miser Soren, you don't have to worry too much. In the future, I will be by your side to protect you. No one will dare to have any ideas about you. Tian Soren gratefully looked at Xiao Chen and nodded. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Jia Muzin say, I don't think so. Now that these two are dead, the truth will be revealed soon. The Jia family will definitely send more people to cause trouble. The Jia family is a family in the martial arts world. They have their reasons for coming to capture Tian Soren. However, they still dare to send more people to the secular world. Do they really not care about the rules of the martial arts world? Xiao Chen asked. The family definitely won't, but Jia Huoyin probably won't let this go. His most powerful subordinates are at the 10th level of the Martial King realm. Although you might be at the Demon King realm, I'm afraid you're no match for them. Jia Muzin explained. Jia Muzin understood Jia Huoyin's personality too well. This person always sought revenge for the smallest grievance. He definitely had many tricks up his sleeves. Didn't he leave his family and come to university because of this? Martial King? Wow, that scared me to death. Should I go buy insurance first? Xiao Qin patted his chest exaggeratedly and said with a frightened expression. Baby? What baby? Where is it? Jia Muzin was startled and looked at Xiao Qin suspiciously. What was he talking about? The baby is in Minjing's tummy. Xiao Qin was at a loss. He didn't know how to explain it all. He could only point at Qing Minjing's tummy and spout nonsense. Go to hell. Qing Minjing rolled her eyes at Xiao Qin. Oh right. Jia Muzin felt strange just now. He looked at Xiao Qin and asked, What's your real name? Xiaoyi? Xiao Chong? Or is it Xiao Qin? Also, she's not called Qing Yao Yao but Qing? Minjing? Yes, my real name is Xiao Qin. Yao Yao's name is Qing Minjing, and Ling Xiaoxue's name is Ling Qianxue. Xiao Qin wondered if he had too many fake names. Jia Muzin nodded and didn't make any comments. Instead, as if he had made a decision, he said, How about this, you guys run first. I'll stay here to help. Even if Jia Huoyin really sends people over, they shouldn't dare to do anything to me. Forget it, there's no need. Xiao Qin shook his head. He had been hiding for a few months and was a bit tired. Now that his strength was not the same as before, he didn't want to play hide and seek anymore. What do you mean? Jia Muzin was stunned. Could it be that Xiao Chen was going to sacrifice himself to save Tian Suruan? Chapter 962. What I mean is, even if they come, I'll kill them all. Xiao Chen said calmly, Let's talk about your situation. You're not going to hide it anymore, are you? What's your strength? Jiang Yuzhen was so shocked that he almost stuttered. His opponent was a level 10 martial king. How come this guy doesn't look afraid at all? Instead he looks very calm? Actually it's not that high. However, I should be able to kill demon kings and martial kings. Xiao Qin said innocently. What? Jiang Yuzhen gasped. He thought he had misheard. Oh, by the way, Menjing can also help. Although she's a girl, she's quite strong. Xiao Qin pointed at Qing Menjing. The Missy snorted disdainfully. However, the slight smile on her face showed that she was still happy. Looks like you've been lying to me for a long time. If that's the case, let's talk about it together. Jiang Yuzhen was speechless for a long time before he sighed from the bottom of his heart. However, Jiang Yuzhen felt that it was reasonable. Back then they didn't know each other, so there was no need for him to tell her everything. Didn't he hide a lot of things from her as well? This time he didn't hide anything and told her everything. Jiang Yuzhen's parents passed away when he was very young. He was raised by the elders of the family. Since he had displayed outstanding cultivation talent from a young age, Jiang Yuzhen was envied and suppressed by the other disciples of the family. Among them, Jia Huiyin was the most despicable. Jiang Yuzhen had suffered a lot of bullying and indifference in his family. He had always been suppressing this sullen feeling in his heart. That was why he had left in anger and went to the secular world to study at a university. To put it bluntly, he had actually been pushed out of the Jia clan. Although the master of the Jia family saw everything, the Jia family had always allowed the disciples to develop freely. The elders would not interfere with any conflicts between the disciples. The patriarch firmly believed that this was the only way for the younger generation to receive the most comprehensive training and stand out. The most outstanding person would inherit the position of the next patriarch, and those who were not outstanding enough would be eliminated. After listening, Xiao Qin pondered for a moment and said, Actually, my experience is similar to yours. It's just that my parents went missing, and then another family broke off the engagement. In the end, I was chased out of the family. Holy sh*t, isn't your counterattack a little too successful? Jiang Yuzhen was astonished and repeatedly clicked his tongue in wonder. However, seeing that Xiao Qin had returned to his original appearance, which was much more handsome than his loser appearance, Jiang Yuzhen could only shake his head, and said with melancholy and helplessness, You're still more awesome than me. Not only did you fiercely slap the face of the family that broke off the engagement, but your ex-fiancée will probably be regretting it so much that she'll cry in the toilet. Jiang Yuzhen, you bastard. You're the one who fainted from crying. Qing Menjing, who was originally listening quietly at the side, suddenly glared at Jiang Yuzhen and scolded him. Jiang Yuzhen was stunned again. He suddenly understood the reason why Qing Menjing was mad. It seemed like she was the fiancée that Xiao Qin had mentioned. He had really committed a big taboo by pointing at a monk and calling him a baldy. Jiang Yuzhen could only laugh dryly, feeling a little embarrassed. On the other side, Su Chuxia and Ling Qianxue were also very shocked after listening to Xiao Qian's story. They didn't expect that Xiao Qian had experienced so many setbacks and could still successfully counterattack in the end. It really wasn't easy for him to come this far. If it were them, they would probably have been defeated by reality a long time ago. When she heard that Qing Menjing and Xiao Qian had been engaged since they were young, and that after the engagement was broken off, the two of them had been together until now, Tian Shoushou felt a little sad. It turned out that the two of them had such a close relationship. However, when she thought about it, she suddenly felt that she couldn't give up so easily. She was already pitiful enough. If she gave up on Xiao Qian as well, wouldn't she be even more pitiful? Thinking of this, Tian Shoushou encouraged herself in her heart and quickly ran over. She hugged Xiao Qian's arm and snuggled into his embrace, unwilling to let go no matter what. Shoushou, what are you doing? This is a public place. You should at least restrain yourself. Su Chuxia frowned and couldn't help but remind her. She was a little dissatisfied with Tian Shoushou's public display of affection. Chuxia, Sister Shoushou only has Xiao Chang Qin as her boyfriend that she can rely on. You are Sister Shoushou's best friend, so you should be able to understand my difficulties, right? Tian Shoushou said with a bitter expression. Her eyes were filled with grievance, like that of a homeless animal. The Tang family in the martial arts world had completely treated Tian Shoushou as a tool for profit. It wasn't easy for her to find a life-saving straw like Xiao Qin, so how could she let go so easily? Tian Shoushou made up her mind. This time she had to rely on Xiao Qin no matter what. I remember someone telling me that she definitely wouldn't fall for a worthless man like Xiao Qin. Why does it seem like that person has already forgotten what she said? Although Qing Menjing also pitied Tian Shoushou, she still couldn't help but tease her. Tian Shosho was suddenly at a loss for words. She could only pretend that she didn't hear Qing Menjing's teasing. Her heart was filled with regret. It was all her fault for being too full of herself back then. Now that she knew the truth, there was no room for her to beat around the bush. Qing Menjing was only joking. Seeing that she was pitiful, she didn't say anything else. Xiao Qun pondered for a moment, then asked Jia Muzhen, "Isn't the Jia family's competition an internal competition? You can actually ask for outside help? Won't the patriarch intervene?" Hearing the conversation between the two fools and Jia Muzhen, Xiao Qun felt a little strange. Logically speaking, the internal competition of the family was nothing more than to choose a more outstanding successor. If they relied on outside help, wouldn't it be putting the cart before the horse? Even if Jia Huoyan relied on outside help to become the patriarch, he didn't have enough strength. Then he reckoned that it wouldn't be long before the Jia family declined. Could it be that the Jia family's patriarch was so old and muddled that he didn't understand such a simple logic? Most importantly, as the successor, Jia Huoyan, because he relied too much on outside help, he was controlled by others. Then, sooner or later, the Jia family would be annexed by others. Just like back then, the Shao family looked for the greedy Sun family to cooperate in order to seek an opportunity to turn around. If it wasn't for him making a move in time, the Shao family's assets would have long been in the pockets of others. As for the reason why Xiao Qun asked this, it was because he suddenly thought of a countermeasure to solve the current predicament. However, he still needed to confirm this crucial information. "Xiao Qun, you might not know this, but outside help is an important tradition of the Jia family's competition. However, this is only one of the competitions. The outside help invited by the juniors of the family will compete against each other. The goal is to test the strength of the juniors' connections. After that, the juniors of the family will have another competition to test the juniors' strength." Jia Muzhen pushed his glasses and explained. Chapter 963. So that's how it is. Then I heard you say that Jia Huoyan can win just by relying on external help? Xiao Qun nodded and asked. Not bad. Jia Muzhen's expression was somewhat ugly. Jia Huoyan's external aid is quite powerful. Therefore, he intends to use this opportunity to continuously farm points in the large competition. Furthermore, the other party is a member of the Tang clan, so the other reinforcements wouldn't dare to kill them. If that's the case, then what's the strength of this foreign aid? Why is he so powerful? Xiao Qun asked curiously. He's a first-level martial honorable cultivator. Jia Muzhen subconsciously lowered his voice. He felt that this word alone was enough to be deafening. Martial honor? What the hell is that? Xiao Qun was stunned and asked. Does that mean he's more powerful than a peak martial king realm level 10? Jia Muzhen was immediately speechless. He was stunned for a long time before he couldn't help but ask, "You're already a demon king, yet you don't know about revered martial artist? How did you level up like that? Don't tell me it's a cliched story of a peerless expert falling off a cliff to give you an unparalleled divine skill?" Probably. Xiao Qun spread his hands with an innocent look on his face. When Jia Muzhen saw that he really did not know, he could only explain in detail what a martial saint was. There was a dividing line between a martial venerable and a demon venerable. Becoming a venerable was the beginning of the path to the great Tao. Compared to before, one's strength was on a completely different level. In order to become a supremacy, not only did the cultivator have to possess great talent and perseverance, but they also needed to have a little bit of luck and come across a fortuitous encounter. Before becoming a venerable, as long as one put in the effort, one could basically break through naturally. However, it was different for venerables. The chances of becoming a venerable were extremely low. Because of this, venerables were very rare in the martial arts world, and Jia Muzhen only knew a few of them. Venerables are actually so rare? Xiao Qun was a little surprised after hearing this. Aren't venerables one level below Demon King and Martial King? Why is it so difficult? That's the theory. Jia Muzhen shook his head and said, but it's very difficult to become a venerable. In the current internal martial arts world, there are not endless natural treasures. Very few people can advance to the venerable realm just by relying on their own hard work. Most cultivators are stuck in the Martial King or Demon King realm for their entire lives, unable to break through. Then how did Jia Huoyan's helper become a martial saint? Could it be that he has some sort of shortcut? Xiao Qun realized that this venerable seemed to be much more powerful than ordinary cultivators. There are no shortcuts to breaking through to the supremacy realm. You can only head to the supremacy realm and comprehend the great Tao there. Only then will you be able to successfully become a supremacy, Jia Muzhen said with a solemn expression. Venerable Secret Realm? What's that? Xiao Qin had heard too many new terms today. He felt that his brain was a little less open. This concerns an important secret of the inner martial arts world, and that is the heavenly jade mine. You must have enough spirit stones in order to open the path to the Venerable Realm. Jiang Yuzhen knew that Xiao Qin knew nothing about this, so he patiently explained. In other words, once I enter the Venerable Realm, I'll become a venerable when I come out? Xiao Qin asked again. That's not necessarily true. Jiang Yuzhen smiled noncommittally. There's a chance of breaking through after entering, but there's also a chance of failing and suffering a backlash. There are even some who lack the opportunity and are unable to comprehend the way to break through for the rest of their lives. They'll be trapped in there forever, never to come out. Since there's a chance, why doesn't everyone enter? I believe that there are many demon kings and martial kings at the full circle in the inner martial arts world, right? Xiao Qin asked. It's not as good as you think. Jiang Yuzhen smiled bitterly. First of all, there's a limit to the number of people who can enter the Venerable Realm. Secondly, as I said earlier, even if you enter, you might not be able to come out. Furthermore, the chances of successfully breaking through are too small. Many cultivators are unwilling to take this risk. After all, a martial king at the full circle is already very powerful. They don't want to risk their lives for an illusory possibility. I see. Xiao Qin nodded. On the surface he appeared to be deep in thought, but in his mind he was shouting, Elder Heaven Ancestor. With my current strength, do you think I have a chance of winning against a martial honor? A martial honor is nothing. Elder Heaven Ancestor's tone was filled with disdain. Why do I have to remind you every time? You're a cultivator. Don't compare yourself to those martial arts and demonic Tao trash. No way is the difference between us that big? Elder Heaven Ancestor, don't try to fool me. No matter what, I'm still a highly educated scholar. Xiao Qin was startled and probed. Didn't Jiang Yuzhen say that the chances of a demon king successfully breaking through to the demon honor level is extremely low, and there's a chance of suffering a backlash? That sounds very powerful. What does it have to do with whether they're powerful or not? If they can't break through, it's because they're incapable. The so-called martial honor level is only one level higher than a martial king or a demon king, and they have some special abilities. Elder Heaven Ancestor said calmly. What special abilities? Xiao Qin was like a curious baby and quickly asked. They can use divine weapons. Elder Heaven Ancestor knew that Xiao Qin didn't understand, so he explained, they can inject martial qi or demonic qi into their weapons, and those weapons will increase their attack and defense. In fact, they're just a little more powerful but not as powerful as you. Then I won't be nervous anymore. Xiao Qin let out a sigh of relief and suddenly thought of something and quickly asked, oh right, if I reach the Golden Core stage level 10, what's the next stage? The next stage after the Golden Core stage is the original infant stage. But don't bite off more than you can chew, and make good use of your time to cultivate. Elder Heaven Ancestor said impatiently. Oh. Xiao Qin was a little embarrassed. This master of his really, if he didn't insult him a few times, he would feel uncomfortable. Jiang Yuzhen was waiting for Xiao Qin to continue, but after waiting for a long time, he didn't hear anything. Instead, he saw Xiao Qin standing there in a daze, and his face was alternating between red and white. Jiang Yuzhen couldn't help but feel a little puzzled, so he raised his hand and patted his shoulder and asked, Xiao Qin, are you okay? Why are you in a daze halfway through? It's nothing, I'm thinking about how to help you. Xiao Qin came back to his senses and saw Jiang Yuzhen looking at him with a puzzled face, so he explained a little embarrassedly. The other party has an expert of this level, I think. Although Jiang Yuzhen was touched by Xiao Qin's righteousness, he was still very hesitant. But before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Xiao Qin. I think, although Jia Huoyan's external help is an expert of the martial honorable level, it's only at the first level, so it shouldn't be a problem. Xiao Qin said with a smile. Ah. Jiang Yuzhen sucked in a breath of cold air. This Xiao Qin's courage is too big, isn't it? The other party is already a martial honorable, and he actually said it shouldn't be a problem? Could it be that this is his secret to counterattack? Chapter 964. How about this, if I can think of a way to help you fight for the position of the young master, can you get in touch with some of the core secrets of the Tianyu mine? Xiao Qin had regained his composure and asked straightforwardly. After listening to the words of the Elder Heaven Ancestor, Xiao Qin's originally worried heart finally relaxed. Since the Elder Heaven Ancestor said that the Venerable One was not as awesome as him, what was there to be afraid of? If one came he would kill one. If two came he would kill both. Xiao Qin immediately decided to use the Jia family as an entry point to enter the inner martial arts world. The Jia family had shares of the Tianyu mine. As long as he could help Jia Muzin get the position of the young master, he would be one step closer to finding his father. What? You can help me fight for the position of the young master? Jia Muzin was shocked and looked at Xiao Qin in shock. His face was full of disbelief. Yes, that venerable one is no big deal. I can kill him. Xiao Qin said lightly, looking very awesome. However, just as he finished boasting shamelessly, the voice of the elder heaven ancestor sounded in his mind at the wrong time. You can't kill him. With your attitude he can kill you. Xiao Qin was stunned and asked doubtfully, Elder heaven ancestor, didn't you just say that I was awesome? What? I said that a cultivator is awesome, but the premise is that your level can keep up. The elder heaven ancestor exposed him mercilessly. Even if you are a lion when you were a cub, you couldn't stand it if a wild horse kicked you. What should I do? Xiao Qin felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. Don't brag. Be careful when you meet the venerable one. He can't kill you, the elder heaven ancestor said lightly. At most, no one can kill anyone. What if I level up? Xiao Qin asked tentatively. A small flame of hope was ignited in his heart. He can kill anyone at any time. The elder heaven ancestor answered decisively. Understood. In that case, I have to hurry up and go for dual cultivation. Xiao Qin immediately grasped the crux of the problem, and he no longer felt guilty. Xiao Qin, did you just say that you can kill a venerable? What exactly is your strength? Jia Muzin was shocked for a long time before he came back to his senses. He couldn't help but carefully ask. His strength must be very high. Xiao Qin asked anxiously, just tell me if it's feasible or not. Jia Muzin's spirit shook, and he immediately nodded and said, if I become the young patriarch, then there's definitely no problem. Young master has access to the core secrets. I can find a way to find whatever information you want. He was a little surprised. He didn't expect Xiao Qin to offer to help. Originally, he thought that he would be thanking the heavens and the earth if he could get the position of elder. In the end, Xiao Qin actually went straight for the position of young patriarch. All right. That's settled then. Xiao Qin nodded. We'll all stay here for the next few days. We can take care of each other. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if the Jia family comes again. I don't have a problem with that, but... Jia Muzin looked at the four girls, a little troubled. This house is only so big. Will it be inconvenient for everyone to live together? Looking at the people present, Ling Qianxue and Cheng Menjing were Xiao Chen's real girlfriends. It seemed like Tian Wangchuan had also been won over. There were only 2 rooms in this house. Jia Muzin pondered. He couldn't possibly live with Su Chuxia, could he? You don't have to worry about that. Xiao Qin smiled. In this building there are many rooms that belong to Tian Wangchuan. She took advantage of the low price to hoard a few houses. It's not a problem for everyone to live separately. After hearing this, Tian Wangchuan hurriedly took out the keys to the other rooms and placed them in front of everyone, letting them choose whichever they wanted. Because Xiao Qin, Cheng Menjing, and Ling Qianxue wanted to cultivate, they chose room 1501 next door. Su Chuxia and Tian Wangchuan stayed in the original room 1502. Jia Muzin was too lazy to pick a room alone. He casually took the key to room 1402 downstairs and moved in. Although it was indeed better to live alone, Jia Muzin felt uncomfortable looking at Xiao Qin surrounded by so many beauties. He sighed in his heart that everyone had different fates. Fortunately, he was open-minded and did not take it to heart. After the rooms were assigned in the next few days, Xiao Qin seized the time to cultivate. Everyone only gathered at Su Chuxia's house for lunch and dinner. Xiao Qin cooked for everyone, then they chatted for a while before going their separate ways. They rarely saw each other during other times. Tian Wangchuan saw that Xiao Qin closed the door every day and played 3P with Ling Qianxue and Cheng Menjing. She couldn't help but feel sad and envious. However, she couldn't muster up the courage and was too embarrassed to participate. Although Tian Wangchuan was usually bolder when it came to this kind of thing, as a girl she was still a bit thin-skinned. That day, Qixing rushed out of the door and immediately ran back to the dormitory. She called Elder Son to report the situation. Elder Son, that Xiaoyi really is Xiao Qin. And according to my observation, his strength has already advanced to the peak of the 7th level of the Demon King realm. What should we do next? After the call went through, Qixing immediately explained the situation. What? Xiao Qin is already this powerful? Are you sure you're not mistaken? On the other end of the phone, Elder Son's voice was extremely shocked. Isn't this Xiao Chen's leveling speed too fast? Why is it like he's riding a rocket? No. Previously he used a godly weapon to kill 2 of the Jia family's underlings. His strength leaked out. I saw it clearly. Chick Xing said with certainty. Jia family? How did he get involved with the Jia family? Elder Sun sharply caught onto the suspicious point and asked in surprise. I'm not too sure about the specifics. I heard that it's because of a girl called Tian Wangchuan. Chick Xing was also confused about this point. She could only say what she knew. Tian Wangchuan? Elder Sun frowned and tried to recall for a while. He really couldn't remember such a name in the inner martial arts world. Thus he said, let's not care about this first. Find a way to find Ma Wuzhao and let him deal with Xiaoqin as soon as possible. That matter is about to start. We must let Ma Wuzhao make a move as soon as possible and lure that person out. Chick Xing was a little depressed. She thought to herself, this guy is hiding without a trace. Even you can't find him, how am I going to find him? What's wrong? Elder Sun heard Chick Xing's hesitation and his tone became a little serious. It's like this, Elder Sunday. I also discovered something just now. Chick Xing suddenly thought of something and immediately came up with a plan. She eagerly reported, Xiaoqin is actually working with a netherworld cultivator in the mortal world. Do you think we can make use of this and secretly frame Xiaoqin and then my ass? Before Chick Xing could finish, she was rudely interrupted by Elder Sunday. Chick Xing was stunned. Did I say something wrong? Chapter 965. Elder Sun continued to scold her angrily. I say, have you become stupid after staying in the secular world? If you spread this news and attract a bunch of martial artists to attack Xiaoqin, then no matter how strong he is, he will still die. You were the only outsider at the scene. If it wasn't you who spread the news, who else could it be? Wouldn't that be selling out the entire awakening sect? Miss Xing was at a loss for words. She realized that she had indeed been too impatient and thoughtless. What's more, even if that person really comes out, our awakening heaven sect will also be finished. Elder Sun reprimanded in exasperation. All right, don't bother with those useless things. Quickly think of a way to find Ma Baixia and let him deal with Xiaoqin. This disciple understands. Little Miss Xing replied dejectedly. Give me a reply if there's any news. With that, Elder Sun hung up the phone. Hearing the busy tone from the phone, Miss Xing sighed and thought to herself, you make it sound so easy. If Ma Beizhao was so easy to find, why would I even bring up this idea? What if he's already dead? Even though she was filled with resentment, she still had to complete the task given by the sect. Miss Xing thought for a while and decided to write a letter to the Kuei Mountain sect. She told Ma Beizhao about Xiaoqian's specific location and hoped that he would come as soon as he saw the letter. After sending the letter, Miss Xing wandered around the streets listlessly. She was at a loss. In the past few months she had been searching for Xiaoqian's whereabouts. Now that she had finally found him, she had to go back to find Ma Beizhao. This way, not only would her cultivation progress be severely delayed, but she would also not be able to participate in the plan. She was too unlucky. Just as Miss Xing was vexed over her bad luck, Xiaoqin and his group had just finished dinner at Su Chuxia's house and were chatting idly. She didn't know what was wrong with Tian Suruan again. He kept chatting with Ling Chenxue and Qing Menjing, and they were all talking about irrelevant things. He talked about random topics and the topics were endless. The 2 girls wanted to leave earlier, but seeing Sour's excited expression, they were too embarrassed to say it out loud. They could only sit there and accompany her, occasionally chiming in. Su Chuxia saw that Ling Chenxue and Qing Menjing were a little embarrassed, so she said, Sour, stop pestering Chenxue and Menjing. They're going to cultivate with Xiaoqin and you've been resting at home for a few days. It's time for you to go back to school. Let's sleep early tonight or else you'll refuse to go to bed tomorrow. What class? Xiaoqin had already helped us apply for leave, and he himself didn't go to class. Why should I go? What if he encountered danger again? No one can protect Sister Sour now. Tian Sour curled his lips. Ah, when did you ask for leave? Why didn't I know about this? Su Chuxia was surprised to hear this news. I applied for leave this morning and the school has already agreed, Xiaoqin said. Since he was busy cultivating, there was nothing for him to do at school. If Jia Huoyin's people or Ma Baizhi came, it would be more dangerous for everyone to split up. Therefore Xiaoqin gave Xia Zhili a call and asked him to communicate with the school to apply for leave for everyone. Anyway, they could go back anytime they wanted. Seeing Su Chuxia's surprised expression, Tian Sour pulled her hand and said, Chuxia, why don't you skip class too? That Shui Gao is like a fly, always pestering you. There's no point in going. Why don't you just stay at home and accompany Sister Sour? Why didn't you tell me in advance? Su Chuxia complained. She was a little hesitant. Although she felt that Shuigao was annoying, she felt that it was wrong to skip class. She felt conflicted. I'm sorry, Chuxiao. I already explained the situation to Professor Su this morning and he agreed, Xiaoqin said apologetically. This is a critical time, I hope you can understand. It's okay, I was just a little surprised and wasn't mentally prepared. Su Chuxiao waved her hand. Tian Sour was still chatting with Cheng Minjing and Ling Qianxue. Seeing that it was getting late, Xiaoqin walked over and reminded them, Miser Sour, eldest young mistress Qianxue, and I still have to prepare to go to Sanxiu. You guys can chat tomorrow. Cheng Minjing and Ling Qianxue also stood up and prepared to leave. Wait. Tian Sour suddenly stood up and shouted as she watched the three of them walk to the door. Seeing that Xiaoqin and the others had turned their heads, Tian Sour's face turned slightly red. She said shyly, Xiaoqin, take me with you. What? Xiaoqin didn't understand and asked blankly. Together. Sanxiu. After voicing out her thoughts, Tian Sour finally relaxed. She pouted and said, Sister Sour is your girlfriend, right? Why can't you bring me along? You guys are so secretive every day. I don't know if you guys are cultivating or doing something else. You want to go too? Are you sure? Xiaoqin's eyes widened in disbelief. I'm sure. Tian Sour nodded firmly. Since Sister Sour isn't going to marry that Jia Huoyin, then I'll definitely follow you. Sister Sour has decided, starting today. Xiaoqin saw that Cheng Minjing and Ling Qianxue were looking at him with a faint smile. They didn't object, so he shook his head helplessly. Alright then, let's go. Don't regret it later. Sister Sour has seen everything. Who are you trying to scare? Tian Sour gathered her courage for a long time. Of course she wouldn't back down now. She puffed out her chest and swaggered out behind Xiaoqin. Cheng Minjing and Ling Qianxue looked at each other. They didn't know whether to laugh or to be angry. Su Chuxiao and Jia Muzhen were left standing in place, stunned. When they reached the room next door, Xiaoqin and Cheng Minjing went to shower separately. As there were only 2 washrooms in this house, the other 2 could only wait. Tian Sour quickly took the opportunity to chat with Ling Qianxue in a low voice. Qianxue, Sister Sour has something to ask you. Although Tian Sour looked like she didn't care, when she thought about doing it with Xiaoqin, she immediately felt a little scared and guilty. What's wrong? Ling Qianxue asked. When a girl does it for the first time with a guy, does it hurt? Tian Sour blushed and asked shyly. Tian Soran originally planned to ask Cheng Minjing, but considering that Cheng Minjing was his official fiancé, she might explode if she asked inappropriately. Plus, she knew that she had never said anything nice to Cheng Minjing before, so Cheng Minjing definitely didn't like her very much. Thus, she didn't dare to casually ask and could only ask Ling Qianxue these private questions. Chapter 966. I'm not sure either. Ling Qianxue blushed with shame and answered after a long while. She really didn't know. Her first time was gone when she was drunk. Now that she recalled it, she couldn't even remember the whole process. How could she feel pain? You don't know either? Didn't you do it with Xiaoqin? Tian Souring was puzzled. Then, she seemed to understand something. She slapped her thigh and said, Sister Souring understands. It wasn't your first time, so you can't remember. No, didn't I tell you before? I was drunk at the time, so I didn't feel anything. But, when I woke up the next day, I did feel a little pain. Ling Qianxue's cheeks turned red as she quickly explained. Alright, I forgot. Tian Souring suddenly remembered something. Also, I heard that if you don't wear a condom, it's very easy to get pregnant. But why didn't I see it in the room? Looking around, Tian Souring decided to take action. She opened the drawer of the bedside table and searched everywhere, but she couldn't find the small box. She couldn't help but be surprised. Don't worry. Xiaoqin isn't a scumbag in society. He knows what he's doing. Looking at Tian Souring's nervous face, Ling Qianxue smiled helplessly. This little girl was fearless and shamelessly followed her. She didn't expect that it was all an act. What? Did he do it on your mouth? No. Sister Souring can't do it. Tian Souring's imagination went wild. Thinking of this, she immediately shook her head like a rattled drum. Looking at Ling Qianxue's sexy lips, Tian Souring sighed in her heart. As expected of a girl from Japan, she can actually accept such a big thing. In the past, when she was bored, she would secretly watch some action movies. She always felt that there were some things that would only appear in movies, and she definitely wouldn't do it. She didn't expect to encounter it herself. She couldn't help but panic. What do you mean? Ling Qianxue was stunned. Seeing Tian Souring staring at her lips, she immediately reacted. She lightly punched her in embarrassment and said with a red face, "It's not what you think. He is. What are you guys talking about? What do you mean by this and that?" Just when Ling Qianxue was about to explain, Xiao Chen had already finished showering and walked over in his bathrobe. He happened to overhear the conversation and asked with a puzzled expression. "Nothing. I'm going to take a bath first." Tian Suruan hurriedly gave Ling Qianxue a look, signaling her not to say more. He then waved his hand, picked up a change of clothes, and hurriedly ran to the bathroom. This little girl, she's always so mysterious. Seeing how flustered Tian Suruan was, Xiao Chen turned to Ling Qianxue and asked, "What did she say to you? It's all about girls, you won't be interested." "That, is Menjing done?" Ling Qianxue blushed and quickly changed the topic. Xiao Chen didn't care too much. He nodded and said, "Well, she's fine now. You should go and wash up too." "Okay." Ling Qianxue also stood up and took her underwear and panties to the other bathroom. After showering, Tian Suruan walked into the largest room with a towel wrapped around her. She found that the others hadn't arrived yet and the room was empty. Looking at the huge bed in front of her, Tian Suruan's expression kept changing. After hesitating for a while, she clenched her teeth and lay straight on the bed. She closed her eyes tightly and waited anxiously. Just like other girls, she had fantasized countless times about who she would be with for the first time. Was he handsome? Was he a rich second generation? During the process, would he be gentle and considerate to her? Would it feel wonderful? In short, as long as it was a normal first experience, Tian Suruan had considered all the questions that girls could think of, even some that normal girls couldn't think of. For example, was the other party's technique good? What if she was asked to use a strange position? And so on and so forth. She had also thought of some of the more bizarre questions. She had purposely looked for short movies to watch and studied the tricks involved in it. This was so that she could understand the entire process in advance so that she could be mentally prepared when the time came. However, when Tian Suruan found out that she was just a tool for her family's marriage alliance and that she would end up marrying a guy with a stupid appearance and an extremely twisted heart, all of her previous fantasies were shattered like soap bubbles. She couldn't bear such a terrifying future. When she thought of sharing a bed with a perverted man and spending the rest of her life with him, she would immediately break down. Therefore, Tian Suruan chose to escape from her family and hide in Lan City. She and Su Chusha became best friends who talked about everything. However, when she met Xiao Chen, who was pretending to be Xiao Chang, and was confessed to by him, her cold heart, which was originally closed to the feelings between men and women, gradually rippled. She felt that life had suddenly become colorful and had a hint of meaning. In the past, Tian Suruan had an urge to give her virginity to Xiao Chang. However, every time she mustered up her courage, she was afraid that she would implicate Xiao Chang because of the Jia family. Therefore, after struggling for a while, she gave up on this idea. It was only when she was in danger and Xiao Chen saved her in the nick of time that Tian Suruan completely opened her heart. The feelings that she had accumulated for a long time poured out like a flood. She secretly made a decision in her heart that no matter what happened in the future, she would follow Xiao Chen without hesitation. She would let him be her sustenance for the rest of her life. Therefore, she chose to give her body to Xiao Chen and wanted to occupy a place by his side. "Suruan, why are you lying on the bed alone in a daze?" At this moment, Xiao Chen walked in from the living room. Qing Minjing and Ling Qianxue followed behind him. "No, nothing." When Tian Suruan heard Xiao Chen's voice, her heart beat like a drum. She didn't dare to open her eyes. Xiao Chen looked at Tian Suruan's nervous look and felt it was a little funny. He turned off the light in the room and said, "Sit up. We are going to start cultivating." "Okay." Tian Suruan opened her eyes subconsciously and realized that the room was dark. She immediately became even more nervous. She didn't know why Xiao Chen wanted to sit up by himself. Could it be that he wanted to do some foreplay first? Yes, it should be like this. Wasn't that how it was in those short movies? The male and female leads would first play some tricks and gradually arouse the other party's emotions. Finally, they would enter the main theme. This way the girl wouldn't be too resistant. It seemed that this was what Xiao Chen wanted to do. As the room was dark, Tian Suruan couldn't see the movements of Xiao Chen and the others. She only felt the bed suddenly sink. It seemed that a few people had sat on it and were close to her. She quickly sat up and her breathing became a little heavy. Chapter 967. Come on, don't be nervous. Put your left hand and my right hand together, and your right hand in Chenshua's left hand. Xiaochen could see everything clearly in the dark. He held Tian Xiaoring's hand and guided her unhurriedly. Tian Xiaoring followed Xiaochen's movements in a daze. At the same time, she felt a little inexplicable. What is this guy doing? How can foreplay be like this? It's different from those short movies. Shouldn't it be mutual caressing or kissing? Could it be that this is the difference between double cultivation and fourth cultivation? Because there are 4 people here, so I have to arouse everyone's emotions? That's right. Otherwise it would be a little awkward for the other 2 to watch. Tian Xiaoring thought she understood the reason. After waiting for a while, she realized that Xiaochen only let her and Ling Chenshua's hand touch each other, and the other hand was held by him. Then he didn't do anything else. Tian Xiaoring was completely confused at this time. What is this situation? Why isn't Xiaochen following the routine? Does he want to do it with me or not? Okay, you can start to practice your mental cultivation now. Eliminate all distracting thoughts. Don't let your imagination run wild. After putting the 4 people's hands together, Xiaochen instructed Tian Xiaoring. The other 2 girls were already very familiar with it. There was no need to give any more pointers. Why do you want Sister Xiaoring to practice her mental cultivation? What are you trying to do? Tian Xiaoring couldn't help but ask in confusion. This doesn't make sense. Tian Xiaoring was a little depressed. Could it be that Xiaochen and the others were really just practicing and didn't do anything else? We want fourth cultivation. Didn't I say it before? Xiaochen replied with an innocent face. What do you think? This, I didn't think much of it. I just want to recall the content of the mental cultivation. Tian Xiaoring stopped in time and changed her words perfunctorily. She clearly didn't have any intention of doing that, so how could he rush over and say that he wanted to do that? Tian Xiaoring didn't say anything on the surface, but she was still a little disappointed in her heart. She naively thought that when men and women stripped naked to practice martial arts, it must be done through that. Wasn't that how it was written in those martial arts novels? He didn't expect it to be completely different from what he had imagined. However, her mental cultivation base had been neglected for several years. Originally, she was only a martial artist with level 1 inner force. The head of the family thought that she would be married off sooner or later, so it was useless to cultivate. Therefore, he did not emphasize on her cultivation. After that, Tian Suruan ran away from home and never returned. After so many years, she had almost forgotten the mantra. Xiaochen didn't rush her. Instead, he and Qing Menjing and Ling Chenxue immersed themselves in cultivation first. Tian Wangshuo thought for a long time and finally remembered something. She immediately activated her mental cultivation method, got rid of all distracting thoughts, and began to cultivate with Xiaochen and the others. The night passed quickly. The next morning, when Tian Suruan stopped cultivating, she was surprised to find that she had already reached the peak of stage 6 inner force. Although compared to Xiaochen and the others, this strength was really nothing, but it still made her happy for a long time. The disappointment of not being able to do that with Xiaochen also disappeared. Anyway, as long as she stayed by Xiaochen's side, she would be able to push him down one day. On the contrary, Qing Minjing and Ling Chenxue were still stuck at the ascension stage and did not make any progress. Instead, it was Xiaochen who welcomed the breakthrough that he hadn't had for a long time. From Golden Core stage level 9, he directly soared to level 10 full cycle. This made Xiaochen very excited. He thought to himself, could it be that the more people who cultivate, the faster I can level up? If he could find a few other girls to cultivate with him, then wouldn't he be able to smoothly break through to the nascent soul stage in one go? In his excitement, Xiaochen pulled Tian Suruan over naked and gave her a big hug. Only then did he realize what he had done. Afraid that the other 2 girls would be jealous, he immediately rolled off the bed and slipped into the bathroom to put on his clothes, leaving Tian Suruan sitting there in a daze. Mu Sun, when will Jiao Huoyan's men come? I'm getting impatient waiting. Why don't you call back and urge him? Ask them to come quickly? This young master's schedule is very full, I don't have time to wait for them. When everyone gathered in Su Chusha's house to eat breakfast, Xiaochen drank his porridge in high spirits, crossed his legs and asked leisurely. His current strength was equivalent to a half-step demon venerable. As long as he found time to slightly consolidate his cultivation, he would reach the first level of demon venerable sooner or later. Therefore, even if he had to directly face the experts of full cycle or venerable in the inner martial arts world, Xiaochen was not anxious. In fact, his hands were a little itchy and he could not wait to meet them so he could test his current strength. Can't be, can you really defeat an expert of the 10th level Demon King realm? Jia Muzin was instantly speechless. 2 days ago he thought that Xiao Chen had set an ambitious goal. After not seeing him for a night he actually became so confident? Could it be that some kind of miracle happened? What is the 10th level Demon King realm? Even if that first level Martial Venerable comes, I will still beat him to death. If he doesn't come, we will immediately make a move and go to the Jiao family to meet them, Xiao Chen said proudly. After all, his strength was there. Even if the other party had a divine weapon, so what? As long as they dared to come, he would still beat them until they couldn't take care of themselves. TSK, isn't it just a level up? Look at you, your tail is already in the sky. When the time comes, if we really meet a venerable level expert, I want to see what you will do. Cheng Menjing couldn't stand Xiao Chen's smug look the most. She glared at him and said impatiently. She felt that Xiao Chen was a little too arrogant. If the other party could have a first-level martial venerable, wouldn't they have a second or third-level expert? It seemed like Xiao Chen had already tossed the experience of being beaten up by Ma Baixia and fleeing like a stray dog to the back of his mind. He really didn't learn from his mistakes. Once the scar healed, he forgot about the pain. Expert? Where is there an expert? Hurry up and ask him to come find me. I haven't killed anyone for a few days and my hands are itching. Xiao Chen laughed. Boom. Before Cheng Menjing had time to refute, they heard a sudden loud sound coming from the direction of the door. Everyone was instantly shocked. When they looked back, they saw a cloud of smoke rising. The steel door that had just been installed had been blown to pieces again. A figure rushed in quickly. It can't be, speak of the devil and he will come? Xiao Chen put down his bowl. Although he looked a little surprised, he didn't show any signs of fear. Waiya. Little servant Xiao Chen, let's see where you can run to this time. Everyone here will be buried with my son. The person shouted and directly rushed over. Chapter 968. However, to Xiao Chen's surprise, the person who rushed out was not Jia Huoyan's subordinate, but Ma Peizha, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Ma Peizha went back and went into closed-door training for half a year before he recovered the strength of Demon King level 10 Great Perfection. He had just come out of closed-door training not long ago. As soon as he came out, he received a letter from Chick Xing and learned of Xiao Chen's whereabouts, so he immediately rushed to the place described in the letter. Seeing Xiao Chen and his group eating breakfast, looking very carefree and happy, Ma Peizha couldn't help but get angry. He only recovered his strength after suffering for half a year. Now that he met his enemy, his eyes were exceptionally red. He couldn't wait to tear Xiao Chen into pieces. Ma Peizha walked in front of everyone arrogantly, only to find that Cheng Menjing was also there. He couldn't help but laugh a few times and said, "Very good. Since you two bitches are here, I'll deal with you all together today. It also saves me a lot of effort." "Yeah, you're finally here? That's great. Finally, there's someone to practice with." Xiao Chen was very happy when he saw Ma Peizha came. Although he didn't know how Ma Peizha found this place, it didn't matter. He was worried that there was no one to practice with. Looking at Xiao Chen's eager look, Ma Peizha was taken aback and said with a strange face, "Are you tired of living? You're actually looking forward to me coming. Could it be that you were beaten silly by me before? Is there something wrong with your brain?" "Of course not. I promised everyone before that I would perform Flying Centipede for them to see. I was worried that I didn't have a place to find you. I didn't expect that you, Centipede, would come to me. Of course I'm happy." Xiao Chen explained seriously. "You." Before Ma Peizha could figure out Xiao Chen's intention, he saw him shouting loudly, "Come, come, come. Everyone stand at that place. I'm going to show you how to fly like a snake." As he spoke, Xiao Chen gave Cheng Menjing and Ling Chenxue a look. The two of them understood and brought Jia Muzhen, Su Chuxia and Tian Suruan to the side. In a low voice, they told the three of them what had happened. Seeing that Xiao Chen was being serious, Ma Wuzhao trembled with anger. Clenching his teeth, he said fiercely, "Well done, Xiao Chen. It looks like your brain has been knocked out of your mind. How could you say something so stupid? You're still so stubborn even at death's door. Let's see how you beg for mercy later." Xiao Chen relaxed when he saw that everyone was in a safe area and wouldn't be affected by the aftershocks. He rolled up his sleeves and said calmly, "Let's not talk about those useless things. It wasn't easy for you to recover your strength, so this young master will be magnanimous and give you the chance to make the first move. Don't wait until the centipede flies away and doesn't even have a chance to make a move before it dies." After that, Xiao Chen smiled and waved at Ma Wuzhao, indicating that he could attack at any time. "Shameless brat, full of nonsense. You can go die now." Ma Minky was already enraged. He snorted coldly and immediately circulated his mental cultivation method, displaying the strength of a Demon King level 10 perfection stage Demon King. He flew toward Xiao Qin and raised his hand to unleash a killing move. Bam! Xiao Qin didn't dodge. He raised his hand and met Ma Wuxiao's palm. The next moment, the two powerful forces collided with a loud bang. Everyone who was standing further away felt like they were about to fall and hurried to circulate their qi to resist. Cheng Menjing stood in front of Su Chuxiao in time, blocking the strong aftershocks for her. How is this possible? You're also a level 10 Demon King? Ma Wuxiao was pushed back a few steps by the aftershocks and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was full of horror. He clutched his chest and stared at Xiao Qin in disbelief. It's too late for you to know. Go to hell. Xiao Qin was unscathed. There was a cold smile on his lips. Before Ma Wuxiao could regain his balance, Xiao Qin rushed over and kicked his lower abdomen. Ma Baixia was already heavily injured. Caught off guard, he was sent flying by Xiao Qin's kick, drawing an arc in the air and accurately flying out of the window, falling straight down to the ground floor of the first floor. Ma Wuxiao, who had no time to mobilize the demon qi in his body, could only watch as he got closer and closer to the ground. He roared in terror, "Ah! This is impossible. How could this be?" Bam! Ma Wuxiao landed heavily on the ground, creating a large pit. His expression was still full of disbelief and fear. His eyes were wide open as if he had died with a grievance. No matter how he thought about it, he could not understand how Xiao Qian's strength had become even higher than his in just half a year. Ah! Someone is jumping off the building. Help! What the F***ck? This is too F***king scary. I heard that a lot of people's stocks have plummeted recently. They lost so much that they jumped off the building. This guy must have lost a lot. Where are the security guards? Call 110 and 120. Property management, come quickly. There was a scream from downstairs, followed by the crowd's discussion. They were probably residents who woke up early to buy groceries. They witnessed a suicide incident early in the morning. After a while, the police car and ambulance arrived. Since everyone agreed that Ma Daobao must be a shareholder who lost money, and he was a stranger, and he did not have any documents to prove his identity, the police could not investigate. In order to calm the residents, they asked the hospital staff to take the body away. Chick Xing, who was far away, had a shocked expression on her face. She stood still for a long time. After learning that Ma Wuxiao came out of the mountain, Chick Xing had been following him. When he went to take revenge on Xiao Qian, she hid in the distance and watched. She was ready to help when Xiao Qian was defeated. However, as she watched, Chick Xing found that Xiao Qian and Ma Wuxiao were evenly matched. She couldn't help but be surprised. Before little Miss Xing could react, Ma Baixia had already been sent flying out of the window. He fell straight to the ground dead. The scene made Chick Xing dizzy. Xiao Qian is already at the perfect stage of the Demon King level 10? What the hell is going on? Isn't he only at the 7th stage of the Demon King? A cold wind blew and Chick Xing shivered subconsciously. Only then did she come back to her senses. She quickly left Jingji district and ran back to report the situation. She felt that Xiao Qian's existence was too dangerous. This strange leveling speed couldn't be described by normal people. If he wasn't eliminated as soon as possible, he would pose a threat to Qi Tianmen sooner or later. TSK, this flying Ma Wuxiao doesn't look interesting. It's not fun at all. Xiao Qian dusted off his clothes and looked downstairs in disgust. Xiao Qian, are you okay? Are you hurt? Qing Minjing and Ling Qianxue quickly ran over and looked him up and down. Tian Suruan also stood next to him nervously. Chapter 969. I'm fine. I'm fine. Xiao Qian shrugged and turned to Jiao Muzhen, who had his mouth wide open in shock. Forget it, I'm too lazy to wait. Let's just go to your house and beat Jia Huoyan up. I'll make you the young master so I can go to the Tianyu mine to find my father. Jiao Muzhen hadn't woken up from the scene just now. He stuttered and couldn't even speak clearly. What? Don't you believe that I can help you? Xiao Qian joked with a smile. I believe you. Of course I believe you. Jiao Muzhen nodded quickly and looked at Xiao Qian with a sincere expression. In that case, let's go as soon as possible. Jiao Muzhen estimated that the date of the foreign aid competition was approaching. Since he had Xiao Qian's help, it was like adding wings to a tiger. He also wanted to return to the Jia family as soon as possible to make preparations. Suddenly, a weak female voice was heard. Su Chuxia stood there with an uneasy expression. Chuxia, the internal martial arts world is too dangerous. Don't go. Just study at Lan University and wait for Sister Sour Sour to come back. At that time, Sister Sour Sour will definitely get rid of that disgusting Jia Huoyin and come to find you with ease. Tian Sour Sour knew that Su Chuxia was too weak to go to the internal martial arts world with them, so he immediately ran over and hugged her arm. Okay, I'll wait for you guys to come back. Su Chuxia also knew that if she went with them, she would only be a burden to others, so she nodded and agreed. Okay, then let's go back to school first and take a long vacation. Jia Muzin said with a smile. After all, after going to the internal martial arts world, we don't know when we can come back. It's okay not to go to class for a few days, but if there's no news for a few months, we will definitely be expelled. Everyone felt that it made sense, so they nodded and agreed. Before we go, let's clean up the room first. Xiao Chen walked to the door and looked at the broken iron door. He felt a little heartache and muttered, "Sigh, I just spent money to install a new iron door a few days ago. I didn't expect it to be broken again so soon. I shouldn't have killed Ma Baijiao just now. It would have been better if he had paid for the iron door first. Isn't it just installing an iron door? It won't cost you much money. When did you become as greedy as a miser?" Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen and reprimanded him. Now that Ma Wuxiao was dead, Xiao Chen could withdraw the money in the bank without worry. Not to mention installing an iron gate, he could even buy the whole building. However, it seemed like half of this building was already sour. Sigh, Sister Sour Sour really got shot while lying down. Tian Sour sighed gloomily. She didn't dare to argue with Cheng Minjing, the legal wife. After muttering to herself, she lowered her head and started to clean up the room quietly. Since the iron door was broken, and they were in a hurry, Su Chuxia could only ask the property management to help fix it. Fortunately, it could still be locked. After everything was done, she felt at ease and followed the others to take a taxi to school. Initially, the school did not agree to their request for leave. After all, they could not explain the specific reason. Furthermore, there were too many people and the period was a little too long. However, after Xiao Chen called Xia Zhili and told him about the matter, it did not take long before the school teacher, who had a sour expression on his face, completed all their procedures with a smile. The few of them discussed for a while and decided to go back to their dormitories to pack their luggage. Then they would meet at the school cafeteria and leave after eating. Cheng Minjing asked for Xiao Chen's opinion. She planned to treat Ling Qinyu to a meal as well. Although they had not lived together for a long time, they still had a bit of a roommate bond. Qinyu usually took good care of her. Now that she was leaving, she had to at least tell Ling Qinyu before she left. When they walked into the dormitory, Cheng Minjing saw Ling Qinyu watching TV in the outer room. She said, "Senior Qinyu, are you free this afternoon? My boyfriend and I will probably be away for a few months, so I want to treat you to a farewell meal." "Who are you? Why do you have the key to my dormitory?" Ling Qinyu thought it was Qing Yaoyao. When she turned around, she realized it was a beautiful girl she didn't know at all. She was stunned and asked cautiously. Ling Qinyu felt that this girl's voice was similar to Qing Yaoyao's, but she had never seen her face before. Did she go to Korea for plastic surgery? "I'm Qing Yaoyao. Or you can call me Qing Minjing. That's my real name." Qing Minjing suddenly remembered that she hadn't disguised herself since she recovered her face. No wonder so many students stared at her on the way back. "It's you? Why is your face?" Ling Qinyu quickly stood up and stared at Cheng Minjing's face in confusion. Cheng Minjing had no choice but to give a simple explanation, because of some special reasons. "I disguised my face before, and now this is my true appearance." "I see. But you look much better than before. Your boyfriend is so lucky to have such a beautiful girlfriend like you." "Alright. Why are you guys leaving so suddenly?" Ling Qinyu nodded and asked as she watched Cheng Minjing pack her luggage. Senior Qinyu, you're beautiful too. But the reason is a little complicated. Let's go to the cafeteria first. I can't express myself clearly in such a short amount of time." Cheng Minjing finished packing, held Ling Qinyu's hand and left the dorm for the cafeteria. Ling Qinyu tilted her head and looked at Cheng Minjing carefully. She felt that Cheng Minjing's skin was fair and she was beautiful. She didn't look any worse than her, and she had the outstanding temperament of a lady from a wealthy family. Why would a girl like this fall for a loser with average looks like Xiao Yi? However, Ling Qinyu felt that Xiao Yi might also be in disguise. Maybe he's also quite handsome, and that's why he took Ling Qinyu as his girlfriend. These people might all have their own stories. Coming to Lan City University might just be a small interlude in their lives, and that's why they had to leave now. Thinking of this, Ling Qinyu felt a little disappointed. She had just gotten used to having Qing Menjing as her best friend. She didn't expect her to leave so soon. From now on she would have to live alone again. Facing an empty dorm all day, her days would be extremely boring. As expected, when Qing Menjing and Ling Qinyu appeared on campus hand in hand, they immediately attracted a large group of male students. Ling Qinyu was already a well-known campus belle, and now there was another campus belle-level girl standing next to her. And their looks weren't inferior at all. Chapter 970. Everyone was trying to guess Qing Menjing's identity. Some people even took out their phones to secretly take pictures. However, the two of them seemed to be very used to it. They calmly arrived at the cafeteria. In the cafeteria, Xiao Chen had already opened a private room and was waiting. After Ling Qinyu entered, she immediately froze on the spot with a face full of astonishment. Ling Qinyu saw two familiar faces sitting there leisurely, looking at her with a smile. "Hi, senior sister Qinyu, we meet again. Long time no see." Xiao Chen waved his hand and warmly greeted Ling Qinyu. "Hello, Qinyu." Ling Qinxue faintly smiled and greeted back. She had a lot of words in her heart, but she didn't know how to say them. "Oh, hello." Ling Qinyu's smile was a bit forced. Although she knew that Ling Qinxue was her biological sister, she still couldn't accept this fact. She could only choose to temporarily avoid the other's gaze. She turned her head to look at Xiao Chen and said uncertainly, "You are Xiao Yi?" "Bingo. You guessed correctly. 10 points. Xiao Chen snapped his fingers and happily nodded. "Then why didn't you say so earlier? Why did you lie to me with Qing Menjing?" Ling Qinyu blurted out, but her tone carried a sense of blame that she didn't even notice. Previously she thought that Xiao Yi was too ordinary and didn't match Qing Menjing at all. However, after knowing the truth, Ling Qinyu felt a bit resentful towards Xiao Chen. This guy, why did he lie to her? I also have my own difficulties. Back then I was being chased by my enemies, so I took Qing Menjing to hide. Xiao Chen was also a bit embarrassed and helplessly described his recent experience in detail. "Do you not trust me? Do you think that after telling me the truth, you will bring trouble to yourself?" Ling Qinyu asked a bit angrily. Thinking about how she was kept in the dark for so long, she couldn't help but feel angry. Seeing Xiao Chen, who she hadn't seen for a long time, Ling Qinyu had a strange feeling in her heart. After Xiao Chen left, she had been looking for her grandfather Ling Tian to ask about Xiao Chen's whereabouts. However, she never received a direct answer. Every time the answer was that Xiao Chen was on a mission. Ling Qinyu once asked herself if she had fallen in love with Xiao Chen, but it didn't seem like it. She had an unclear feeling towards Xiao Chen. Because Xiao Chen was the only bodyguard that she could get along with him. Although the two would bicker from time, Ling Qinyu still felt that Xiao Chen was like a big brother. Xiao Chen was her. That Xiao Chen was too. Previously, Ling Qinyu had been thinking of asking her grandfather to transfer Xiao Chen back to her side. However, her wish wasn't fulfilled. At this moment she finally understood that Xiao Chen had always been by her side. However, when she found out about this, he was about to leave again. At this moment, Ling Qinyu's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. For a moment she couldn't tell what she was feeling. She stood there in a daze. "You're thinking too much. I didn't want to implicate you. That's why I chose not to say it. At that time the other party was too strong. I couldn't even protect Menjing. If those people found out about our relationship and used you to threaten me, it would be even more troublesome." Xiao Chen knew that Ling Qinyu was unhappy and explained patiently. "Really? Then why did you hook up with her? You should know that she wanted to harm me." Ling Qinyu came back to her senses. She was a little angry. She pointed at Ling Qinxue and asked suspiciously. Ling Qinyu still didn't trust Ling Qinxue at all. Although they were blood-related sisters, Ling Qinyu felt that there was no reason for an older sister to help someone kidnap her own younger sister. If it wasn't for Xiao Chen's timely discovery, she would have become their prisoner. Moreover, in order to obtain benefits, they might even do some heinous things to him. "Qinyu, actually, I've always wanted to apologize to you. However, I never found the opportunity. I hope you can understand my..." Ever since Ling Qinxue saw Ling Qinyu, she had a guilty expression. However, before she could finish, Ling Qinyu interrupted her. "Forget it. In front of so many people, don't even think about pretending to be a good person. Keep your act to yourself, I won't buy it from you. How do I know that you won't harm me in the future?" Ling Qinyu snorted coldly and glared at Ling Qinxue. "Qinyu, your words are a little too much. No matter what, Qinxue is your blood-related older sister. Now that she's sincerely apologizing to you, can't you let her finish speaking? Xiao Qin frowned and reprimanded in a low voice. He knew Ling Qinyu's spoiled and unreasonable temper. However, it also depended on the situation. She couldn't be too unreasonable, right? You think you can just because she says so? Ling Qinyu muttered. She knew that she couldn't win against Xiao Qian in an argument. She pouted angrily and turned her head away. When the others saw that the atmosphere was a little tense, they couldn't help but look at each other. They didn't dare to open their mouths to smooth things over. After all, they didn't know the truth of the matter. Only Cheng Menjing pulled Ling Qinyu's arm and persuaded her in a low voice. Ling Qinyue looked at Xiao Qin gratefully. She took a deep breath and adjusted her emotions before saying, Qinyu, I don't know if Grandpa told you that I was sent to the sect to cultivate since I was young, but I was switched halfway through? Yes, he did, but that doesn't prove that you're my biological sister. After being comforted by Cheng Menjing for a while, Ling Qinyu's mood improved slightly. Her expression relaxed, but she still didn't trust Ling Qinyue. She replied stiffly. This matter was done by the Sakura group. In order to let the Sakura group infiltrate the martial arts sects and hide in the martial arts world, they secretly switched me with another Japanese girl. Ling Qinyue explained the matter as concisely as possible. Swapping a raccoon for a prince. This is the first time Sister Sour Sour has seen this in real life. Tian Sour Sour exclaimed and was pulled back by Su Chuxia. Yes, so my surname should be Ling, but I still don't know my real name. Ling Qinyue nodded and said lightly. Oh? Then why are you called Ling Qinyue? Did idiot Yorishima change your name? Xiao Qin asked doubtfully. Although he had been with Ling Qinyue for a long time, Xiao Qin had never heard her talk about her background. This was the first time he had heard about it. No, after I was taken away by Yorishima, I was fostered in the family of a researcher who worked for the Sakura group. That family had a daughter who was a few days younger than me. After I became sensible, I always thought that she was my biological sister. Ling Qinyue shook her head and said. Chapter 971. What does this have to do with your name, Ling Qinyue? Although Ling Qinyu turned her head away, she still couldn't help but ask. It looked like she was talking to the air. Actually, my sister's name is Ling Qinyue. Ling Qinyue replied helplessly. Seeing that everyone was confused, she had no choice but to continue explaining. When we lived together, according to the rules, one of us had to become a member of the organization. However, the Sakura group wanted a younger sister who was 1 year younger than me, who didn't know anything yet. So you replaced her? Xiao Qin keenly caught the key point. Yes, I heard that the training in the Sakura group is very hard and cruel. I was afraid that my sister would suffer, so I disguised myself as my sister, took her identity and joined the Sakura group, becoming Ling Qinyue. Ling Qinyue nodded. However, when she recalled that Yorishima Kikuo had told her that the organization already knew that she had replaced her sister, Ling Qinyue secretly thought that she was still too inexperienced. Xiao Qin was almost confused. After sorting out his thoughts, he asked, So, I met a Ling Qinyue at the New Moon Academy before. Who is that? Could it be your biological sister? No, it's your sister from Japan? Xiao Qin glanced at Ling Qinyu, who was pouting and staring at the air. His sister was standing right there. Should be. Although I joined the Sakura group for her, I don't know how Yorishima Kikuo persuaded her to join the organization. He even sent her to Xia Kingdom to carry out a secret mission. However, I'm not too sure about the specifics of the mission. Ling Qinyue's expression was a little bitter, as if she felt helpless about wasting her efforts. Then, the girl who swapped with you back then, which sect did she go to? What's her name? Xiao Qin asked. I'm not too sure about that. Yorishima is big. Yorishima Kikuo said that it was arranged by the leader of the Sakura group. Even with his authority, he couldn't investigate it. He only told me about my past because he wanted me to go on a mission. Ling Qinyue smiled bitterly. Although Ling Qinyue remained loyal to the Sakura group after she found out about her past from Yorishima Kikuo, she still secretly looked up some information to find out the details of her being switched. Unfortunately, she could only find some minor clues and was unable to access the core confidential documents. After talking for so long, you still don't have any evidence to prove your identity. I'm afraid that's not very convincing, is it? Ling Qinyu finally turned her head back and said with a frown. Qinyu, if you don't believe me, we can do a DNA test. You'll understand then. Ling Qinyue was not surprised by Ling Qinyu's question. The only thing that could prove her identity was the blood of the Ling family flowing in her body. This Ling Qinyu was stunned. She recalled that her grandfather had also mentioned the results of Ling Qinshua's DNA test, but she still couldn't accept this fact. She always suspected that it was the Sakura group's doing. That kidnapping had left a huge shadow in her heart. Ling Qinyu couldn't believe that her own sister would help outsiders harm her. Even though she felt Ling Qinshua's kindness, she still couldn't accept it. Ling Qinyu, don't be so stubborn. How good is it to have such a powerful sister? You don't have to be afraid of being bullied when you have someone to go shopping with. She can even take you to Japan to eat barbecue and sashimi. Sister Sour is so jealous of you. Just as the atmosphere in the private room became a little awkward, Tian Sour suddenly spoke up. Sour, don't talk nonsense. They're talking about serious matters. Su Chuxia quickly pulled Tian Sour away. She had a headache dealing with this unrestrained little sister of hers. But Sister Sour's stomach is about to collapse from hunger. What if they talk for another half an hour and we don't have anything to eat? What if Sister Sour's proud chest shrinks by a cup? Tian Sour pouted and complained. Ha ha ha. Tian Sour's words caused everyone to roar with laughter. The originally heavy atmosphere in the private room instantly eased up. You. Su Chuxia was angry and amused at the same time. She looked at Tian Sour, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She didn't know what to say. Alright, let's stop talking about this. If you don't believe what Qinshuo said, go and confirm it with Chief Ling later. Let's eat first. Xiaoqun pulled Ling Qinyu to her seat and stood up to call the waiter, indicating that the dishes could be served. Ling Qinyu was still a little conflicted, but she knew that this was not the time to pursue this matter. She sat down reluctantly. Everyone relaxed and chatted happily. While waiting for the waiter to serve the dishes, Xiaoqun leaned back in his chair. Seeing that Ling Qinyu was still unhappy, he comforted her. Don't be so depressed. After this meal, we don't know when we'll be able to see each other again. It's more important to finish this farewell feast happily. How long will you be gone this time? When will you come back to class? Ling Qinyu wanted to ask how long Xiaoqun would be gone for, but they were in public and Cheng Menjing, his real girlfriend, was also present. It was not appropriate for her to ask about it, so she could only say, you guys, instead. I don't know. If it's fast, it'll be a few months. If it's slow, it might be a few years. In fact, Xiaoqun was not sure either. After all, the main purpose of going to the Jia family of the Inner Wulin was to find out about his father's whereabouts. As for returning to Lan City University to continue his studies, he was not very interested. All right. Ling Qinyu was a little disappointed and did not ask any further. Although Ling Qinyu did not directly express her opinion, Cheng Menjing, who was sitting at the side, could keenly sense that her emotions were a little off. It seemed that she was not very satisfied with Xiaoqun's answer. Glancing at Xiaoqun, Cheng Menjing did not intend to expose him. She would just pretend that she did not see it. All right. Chuxia, why don't you move into Senior Qinyu's dormitory? Tian Suru clapped her hands and suddenly pulled Su Chuxia. Sister Suru is not by your side in the future. What if that ice cream smoker comes to harass you again? You can take care of each other if you live together. Tian Suru thought about how she was going to follow Xiaoqun to the Jia family. She was a little worried about the weak and shy Su Chuxia. After all, there were too many weird playboys in school. Without her protection, she might be abducted one day. Don't talk nonsense. Senior Qinyu is living well. How can I disturb her? Su Chuxia was a little embarrassed and waved her hand. Don't worry, I can take care of myself. After you go to the Jia family, don't make trouble for them, lest you cause trouble for Xiaoqun again. At this moment, Su Chuxia looked gentle and calm on the surface, but she was actually quite sad. After all, she had been with Tian Suru for so many years and had long become good sisters who could talk about anything. Chapter 972. Although Saori was usually carefree and would sometimes make jokes that made people not know whether to laugh or cry, Su Chuxia still felt like something was missing when she was suddenly going to leave. It's okay, Chuxia, you can move in. Menjing is leaving and it's too boring for me to live alone. I'll have company if you move in. Ling Qinyu said with a smile. Ling Qinyu had gradually gotten used to living with others, but the premise was that the person had a good character. She knew Su Chuxia well, so she was more at ease moving in. Is that so? Alright, I'll have to trouble Senior Qinyu to take care of me from now on. Su Chuxia hesitated for a moment and immediately agreed. Actually, she didn't like living alone. She was used to living with Tian Saori, so it was good to have someone to talk to at Ling Qinyu's place. You two are the old and new campus belles. Living together will definitely be a good story. Jiang Yuzhen also laughed and chimed in. Xiaoqun remembered something and said, "Oh right, if Shui Gao and Jing Shiding come to harass you in the future, remember to give Wang Jingtian a call and ask him to deal with it. I've already talked to him and I'll send you his phone number later." As they were chatting, there was a knock on the door of the private room. Then a waiter came in with the dishes. Wow, the dishes are here. That's great. Sister Saori's stomach is flat from hunger. Seeing the waiter put the dishes on the table, Tian Saori immediately cheered happily. Then she pointed at the waiter and said, Hey, put these 2 plates of meat in front of Sister Saori and the vegetable dish on the other side. And this fried chicken wing. Saori, there's a wheel on the table. Isn't it the same no matter where you put it? Also, everyone is hungry. Are you going to eat it all for yourself? Su Chuxia gently poked Tian Saori's head and scolded in a low voice. Then let's eat together. Tian Saori knew she was in the wrong. She stuck out her tongue, picked up her chopsticks and quickly put a few pieces of meat into her bowl. Then she lowered her head and ate with big bites. The others looked at each other and smiled. They didn't mind. They were already used to Tian Saori's personality. They chatted as they ate, discussing which route they should take tomorrow. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, everyone said their goodbyes and went back to rest. Ling Qinyu returned to the dormitory and chatted with Cheng Menjing for a while. Seeing that she was tired, Ling Qinyu had no choice but to let her rest. She laid on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. For some reason, Ling Qinyu had an urge to keep Xiao Chen as her long-term bodyguard. However, during the meal just now, she found out that Xiao Chen was here to search for her father's whereabouts. She could only helplessly give up on this idea and only hope that Xiao Chen would be able to return safely. At that time, she would look for her grandfather Ling Tian to plead for Xiao Chen to be sent to her side. Looking at the dark night sky outside the window, Ling Qinyu sighed softly and closed her eyes. The next morning, Xiao Chen and the others arrived at the school gate and got into the Buick MPV that Xiaoyu had prepared for them. Su Chuxia and Ling Qinyu came to send them off. As they were in a hurry, they did not say much and only said a few simple farewells. After that, Xiao Chen started the car and drove away from the school gate. Watching the Buick MPV leave, Su Chuxia and Ling Qinyu could see the deep helplessness in each other's eyes. However, they did not say anything. They only sighed softly and held hands as they went back to the dormitory. Xiao Chen drove fast and steadily. Soon he got on the highway and drove in the direction of the Outer Wulin's Devil Star sect. He had only been to that place, so he was more familiar with the route. Jiang Yuzhen, how do I get to the Inner Wulin from here? I have no idea, so I can only rely on you to navigate, Xiao Chen asked as he drove. Just drive in the direction of the Outer Wulin first. When we get there, I'll tell you how to get there. Jiang Yuzhen scratched his head. Isn't there a specific location? Xiao Chen was a little confused. The specific location. Actually, I'm not too sure either. The Outer Wulin is in the old mountain forest, and the way to enter the Inner Wulin is quite special. I can't explain it clearly, Jiang Yuzhen explained. Alright. Although Xiao Chen was curious about where the Inner Wulin was, he did not ask much. He raised his head and looked at the mountain not far away. He could not help but say to himself, we arrived at Greenstone Mountain so soon? I wonder how Jing Xinxiang is doing recently? Since we are passing by here, I might as well go and see him. Xiao Chen. Be careful in front. While Xiao Chen was thinking about something, Jiang Yuzhen, who was sitting in the co-driver's seat, suddenly shouted nervously. What the F***CK? Xiao Chen suddenly came back to his senses. He saw a minibus in front of him suddenly slowed down without warning and was ready to stop by the roadside. Xiao Chen was suddenly shocked and quickly stepped on the brake heavily. However, it was still too late. Because of the inertia, the MPV directly hit the rear of the minibus. Cheng Menjing and Tian Suruan were scared and screamed. Bang! Only to hear a muffled sound, they saw that the rear of the minibus in front was directly dented, and it was almost knocked over. However, the Buick minibus driven by Xiao Chen was just slightly shaken, and there was no damage at all. Only the front bumper's paint was scraped off. Xiao Chen, what's wrong with you? You didn't even look when you were driving. What were you thinking? Fortunately, we were all wearing seat belts or else we would have flown out. Cheng Menjing was shocked and complained angrily. Sister Suruan was scared to death. Just now, Sister Suruan's mind was like a horse lantern. In an instant, she recalled everything from childhood to adulthood. I thought I was dead for sure this time. Tian Soran patted his chest with lingering fear. He thought to himself that it was a close shave. He was still a virgin. She didn't even push down Xiao Qin, so how could she die so easily? Ling Qinxue, on the other hand, was silent. She knew that the minibus had been modified. Even if it hit the minibus at full speed, there would be no big problem. Moreover, Xiao Qin had deliberately stepped on the brake. Having said that, even if the minibus was destroyed, the people in the minibus were all cultivators, and they all had the ability to resist. They certainly wouldn't suffer any serious injuries. At most, it would just be a few scratches. Don't blame Xiao Qin. It's not his fault. It's because the minibus in front suddenly slowed down and changed lanes. It also didn't use the turn signal in advance. That's why it hit. This is a highway, and this kind of behavior is purely courting death. I guess that the minibus was driven by a female driver. Jia Muzin analyzed logically, but when he mentioned the female driver, he suddenly got stuck. Chapter 973. Because he saw that as soon as the minibus door opened, a fat bald man jumped out and walked toward the Buick while cursing, "Hey! You bastard, are your eyes blind? How can you drive? How can you rear-end on such a wide road? Get the F***ck down here." Xiao Qin felt that the voice sounded familiar. He looked at the person and couldn't help but laugh. Why is it this guy again? Does he want to make trouble again? Or is he going to make a bowl of knife-shaved noodles for me to taste? Little bastard son, he's pretty good at keeping his cool. I can't call you, right? Hurry up and get out or I'll tear your car into scrap iron in minutes. Do you believe me? Smiling Mithriya stared at the minibus and said fiercely. There was a big greasy bump on his head which was obviously caused by the collision just now. Because the Buick was covered with a thick layer of black film, Smiling Mithriya couldn't see the driver's appearance inside, so he didn't put Xiao Qin in his eyes at all, nor did he notice that the minibus was undamaged. "Oh, why are you looking for me?" Xiao Qin rolled down the window and looked at Smiling Mithriya coldly. He asked with a faint smile, "Are you itching for a beating again? Or do you know that we've been running for a day and are hungry, so you waited on the road to make knife-shaved noodles for us?" "So, Xiao Qin, aren't you being chased by Ma Minghua? How can you be here?" Seeing that the person in the minibus was Xiao Qin, Smiling Mithriya was suddenly dumbfounded and asked with a stutter, "What's going on? Didn't Ma Minghua release a martial arts hunting order? How dare Xiao Qin show up in public? Isn't this naughty kid too bold? Is he scared out of his wits?" It turned out that Smiling Mithriya appeared here because he was also ready to go to the Green Rock sect. He heard that Xiao Qin had been forced to become a stray dog and fled here and there. He was ecstatic. He remembered that he had lost face in the Green Rock sect at that time, so he was ready to take the opportunity to come back. He didn't expect that he would meet Xiao Qin, the unlucky kid, before he could pretend. "Oh, you're talking about Horseshoe. He learned a new big move called Flying Serpent. He wanted to show it to me but he didn't perform well. He flew down from the 15th floor and fell to the ground." Xiao Qin described it vividly, then shook his head and sighed, "Sigh, it's really sad. This story tells us that there's a risk in using the ultimate move, so we need to be cautious." "What did you say, he's dead?" The Smiling Mithriya finally understood what Xiao Qin was talking about. He took a deep breath and his face twisted. Although the Smiling Mithriya did not know much about Ma Daobao's true strength, he was the sect leader of the Kuei Mountain sect after all. No matter what, he should have some ability, right? How did he die just like that? Could it be that Xiao Qin's strength was higher than Ma Wuzhu's? "Yes, he's dead." Xiao Qin nodded and waved his hand impatiently. "Alright, stop wasting time. Hurry up and go perform your knife-shaved noodles. Today there are many people on the bus, so make a few more bowls. Be careful not to cut yourself to death." "But this is the wilderness and I don't have any noodles or cooking utensils. Where can I go to make knife-shaved noodles for you?" The Smiling Mithriya came back to his senses and said bitterly, "Aren't we going to the Green Rock faction soon?" Xiao Qin pointed to the mountain not far away and said, "You can go there and cook for us. Anyway, you're familiar with that place and I also want to visit it. It's very convenient." The Smiling Mithriya was stunned. He subconsciously looked at the minibus and then at Green Rock Mountain. "Don't think about running away. I can catch up with you in minutes with my flying sword. Just park the car and hurry over. I'll be there soon. When I arrive, you have to make all the noodles, or I'll also let you perform a flying noodle show." Xiao Qin seemed to have seen through the Smiling Mithriya's mind and said coldly. Just now he had used his divine sense to explore. There were many people on the minibus. Xiao Qin guessed that the smiling Mithria must have brought so many people to cause trouble for the Green Rock faction, so he simply pushed the boat with the current and drove them to the mountain. If he followed them to the Green Rock faction, on the one hand he could see that they didn't do anything bad, and on the other hand he could quietly inquire about their purpose. Xiao Qin could sense that the smiling Mithria was not here purely to show off his prowess. He seemed to be deliberately hiding something and did not say anything. Otherwise he could crush the Green Rock sect by himself. Why would he bring so many disciples here? Yes. The smiling Mithria trembled, but he had no choice but to return to the minibus with a smile. First he parked the minibus on the side of the road, and then walked in the direction of Green Rock Mountain with his men. As he walked he was still wondering, how could a horse fall to death? Why would he perform a flying horse in the air? Is there something wrong with his brain? I really can't figure it out. Although the smiling Mithria knew that he was not Xiao Qian's opponent, he was unwilling to be restrained. Taking advantage of the fact that Xiao Qin and his men had not caught up, he secretly contacted the superior sect behind the Joyful clan. This time, the smiling Mithria came to the Green Rock faction with an ulterior motive. The superior sect of the Joyful clan had heard from somewhere that the Green Rock faction had found a treasure left by an ancient sect, which was full of high-quality spirit jades. Therefore, after he got the news he was ready to rob it, but he did not expect to meet Xiao Qin the Jinx. Hello Mithria, how is it going? Did you get the spirit jades? After the smiling Mithria dialed the number, a cold voice came from the other end. Leader Zhua, I encountered a little trouble. Today I just arrived at the Green Rock faction, and that Xiao Qin suddenly appeared. Now, I and my men are under his control, so it's not easy to take action. The smiling Mithria reported helplessly. Xiao Qin. Why is it him again? Isn't he being chased by Ma Wuxia? Why did he go to the Green Rock faction? Did Ma Wuxia chase after him? Sect leader Zhuo was stunned and asked with a frown. I'm not too sure about this. According to him, Ma Wuxia learned a big move called Flying Horse and then. The smiling Mithria did not dare to delay and quickly repeated Xiao Qian's words. What did you say? Ma Wuxia fell to his death? Sect leader Zhuo was stunned. He had heard that Ma Wuxia was a Demon King level 10 Great Perfection expert. How could he fall to his death? Yeah, that's what Xiao Qin said, and I don't think he's lying. The smiling Mithria nodded and asked with a sad face, Sect leader Zhuo, what do you think we should do next? With Xiao Qin here, I'm afraid we can't take away those spirit jades. Maybe, even I will be left behind. Chapter 974. It's all thanks to your prescription that I've seen the results after drinking it twice. Now the old injuries in my body have healed and even my strength has recovered. I really don't know how to thank you. Gu Chongyi sighed. Xiao Qin and Jing Xinxiang chatted along the way. When they walked into the living room they saw Gu Chongyi sitting on a chair, waiting. Originally, when Xiao Qin gave him the prescription, he thought that a young brat like this wouldn't have any medical skills. He was only holding on to the mentality of treating a dead horse as a living one. He didn't expect that it would miraculously work. Seeing that Xiao Qin had arrived, Gu Chongyi quickly stood up and greeted him. He said in a loud voice, Young hero Xiao, you're finally here. Everyone must be tired, right? Come, sit down and rest for a while. Xinxiang, go and pour a few cups of tea for our guests to quench their thirst. Then ask someone to serve the knife-shaved noodles and dishes. Let's talk while we eat. Wow, so much meat. Sister Suru is starving. Tian Suru had been in the car for half a day and was famished. When he saw the table full of delicacies, his eyes shone with a faint green light. He could not stop swallowing his saliva. He could not wait to pick up his chopsticks and dig in. All right, we'll do as you say. I'll wait for your good news. Smiling Mithria agreed and hung up the phone. He felt more at ease and led his men to the direction of Greenstone faction. Although it was just some ordinary chicken, duck, and fish, it was obvious that a lot of effort had been put into it. It looked very grand. Young hero Xiao Qin, smiling Mithria has prepared the knife-shaved noodles. The table, chairs, bowls, and chopsticks are ready. Please come in and rest for a while. Dinner will be ready soon. That figure was Jing Xinxiang. When he saw Xiao Qin and the others, he greeted them enthusiastically. It's your turn to be polite this time. Since we're good friends, how can I not help you? Xiao Qin smiled and waved his hand to stop Jing Xinxiang from thanking him. Gu Chongyi's illness was not serious. It was a piece of cake for him to cure him. I didn't expect this guy to be so warm-hearted. I thought he would only do bad things. Cheng Minjing followed behind and whispered. Sour, can't you just bear with it? Xiao Qin and the others are discussing serious matters. Why don't you have any manners? Qing Minjing frowned and said in a low voice. You've renovated the sect quite well. Furthermore, there seems to be quite a number of disciples who have come to learn. Looking at the brand new Green Rock sect and the many disciples cultivating in the square, Xiao Qin nodded slightly and praised. Xiao Qin saw that Gu Chongyi's face was glowing, and he was full of energy. He didn't even need his crutches anymore. Obviously he had recovered well. Xiao Qin smiled and said, Senior Gu, it seems that you are getting more and more energetic. Is your injury okay? Ling Qinshui glanced at the two of them and pursed her lips into a smile, not saying a word. She had long known that Xiao Qin was such a person. Otherwise, when she lost her virginity to him in a daze, why would he take responsibility at the first moment instead of choosing to pretend to have amnesia? Well, how about this? Sect leader Zhuo pondered for a while, then made a decision and said, You stay in the Green Rock sect first and stabilize that Xiao Qin. I'll immediately send a few experts over to reinforce you. When the time comes, you guys can work together from the inside and the outside to directly kill Xiao Qin. This little bastard is too much of a hindrance. Brother Xiang, I'm sorry to disturb you again. Xiao Qin smiled and cupped his hands. Zheng Xinxiang quickly served tea and sat next to Gu Chongyi. Not long after, the disciples of the Green Rock sect served dishes and knife-shaved noodles, filling the table. After Master took your prescription, not only did his injuries heal, but his body also became stronger day by day. Speaking of which, I really have to thank you. Otherwise, I'm afraid he wouldn't have been able to hold on for long. Zheng Xinxiang said with a face full of gratitude. He didn't want to park his car by the roadside like the smiling Methreya. Even if he wasn't towed away by a tow truck, he would be hit by a passing car. Zheng Xinxiang agreed and left. Xiao Qin bowed to Gu Chongyi and introduced the few people behind him. After a while he sat beside Gu Chongyi at the table. Hearing Zheng Xinxiang mention his master, Xiao Qin asked, Oh right, how is Senior Gu's body? Is it getting better? Although Xiao Qin's story was relatively simple, it was still a relatively long story. As they chatted, they walked to the gate of the Green Rock sect. A figure was standing at the gate waiting for them. When he received the call from Xiao Qin, he was a little puzzled as to why the smiling Methreya would suddenly appear. However, after thinking carefully for a while, he remembered that they had recently found the spiritual jade treasure and immediately understood the other party's intention. He secretly thanked his lucky stars that Xiao Qin happened to pass by. Otherwise, the spiritual jade that they had just found would definitely be lost. What are you talking about? Why are you being so polite with me? If it weren't for your help, the Green Rock sect wouldn't be where it is today. Not to mention that it's rare for you to come here, you can stay here every day if you want. Zheng Xinxiang patted Xiao Qin's shoulder heavily and said with a sincere face. Then he led him and the rest to the guest hall. He recalled that when he came to the Green Rock sect previously, all he saw were dilapidated thatched cottages, messy grounds and a miserable look. Now it was completely renovated. However, there were no particularly luxurious buildings. It was just that the old houses were demolished and a few new houses were built in the original locations. It looked rather simple. Leading Jia Muzin and the few ladies up the mountain, Xiao Qin explained to them how he knew Zheng Xinxiang and how he became enemies with the Joyful clan. Recalling that Xiao Qin insisted on cooking shaved noodles, the smiling Methreya seriously suspected that the other party was trying to find a reasonable excuse, such as the noodles were too unpalatable, to kill him. On the other side, Xiao Qin first called Zheng Xinxiang and told him that the smiling Methreya was going over to cook for everyone. He asked Zheng Xinxiang to prepare in advance and he would be there soon. Then he drove around the highway and found a service area to park the car. After locking the door, he walked towards the foot of the Greenstone Mountain. I still have to thank you for your help. Although we have a sum of money, Master said that we shouldn't be extravagant and wasteful. So, we only renovated it a little. It's still passable. Zheng Xinxiang scratched his head and smiled. The man that Sister Saori likes must be a peerless and excellent man. Saving someone is a piece of cake. Tian Saori said with a smile. Obviously he was very satisfied with Xiao Qin. Chapter 975. Although she was also hungry, they were guests. The host hadn't even started eating yet, so she couldn't just start. Minjing, don't blame Saoring. We came out in a hurry this morning, so we didn't have much to eat. I'm actually a little hungry too. Ling Qinshui pulled on Cheng Minjing's sleeve and softly tried to smooth things over. The young miss had been influenced by the etiquette of a big family since she was young, so she followed the rules. Compared to Tian Souring, who had left home early and lived alone, her worldview was naturally very different. Therefore, ever since they set off, Qing Minjing and Tian Souring constantly had small conflicts. Ling Qinxue always acted like a big sister and patiently mediated. Otherwise, the two girls would have already started fighting. But Sister Souring is really hungry? Tian Souring also knew that this was impolite, so she didn't pick up her chopsticks and start eating. However, she was really hungry, so she couldn't help but touch her stomach and mumble. Grumble, grumble. As soon as Tian Souring finished speaking, her stomach cooperated and made a sound as if it was proving for her. At this time, Gu Chongyi and Xiao Chen's conversation had just ended, and the rumbling sound was especially clear in the room. Tian Souring's face turned red and she lowered her head awkwardly. Ah, this little girl has a simple personality, but she's quite interesting. Gu Chongyi didn't mind. He laughed heartily and made an inviting gesture. With an apologetic face he said, "It's all my fault. I got a little excited when I saw young hero Xiao, so I couldn't stop talking. Everyone please take a seat. If the food gets cold it won't taste good." Since the host had already spoken, Xiao Chen and the others didn't bother with pleasantries. After taking a seat they all raised their chopsticks and started eating. "Xiao. Hero, how's the knife-shaved noodles today? Is it to your liking?" Everyone chatted as they ate and the atmosphere was harmonious. Smiling Mithria walked in with a face full of smiles, rubbing his hands and asking flatteringly, "Oh, it's all right. What do you want? Don't tell me you want to eat too?" Xiao Chen glanced at him casually. No, no, no. How can I do that?" The smiling Mithria waved his hand and smiled. Hehe. It's like this, I still have something important to do. If there's nothing else, I'd like to leave first so as not to disturb your rest, Hero Xiao. In fact, smiling Mithria was just spouting nonsense. He did not have anything important to do. He just did not want to stay in the Green Rock sect to help Xiao Chen. After all, if this matter were to spread out, it would be too embarrassing. How would they be able to mingle in the martial arts world in the future? He was someone who cared a lot about his reputation. Anyway, the higher-ups had already said that they would immediately send a few experts over. The smiling Mithria now only planned to hide near Greenstone Mountain and keep an eye on Xiao Chen's whereabouts. He would only appear when the experts came. "Yo, you want to run?" Xiao Chen directly exposed the smiling Mithria's lie and said with a faint smile, "Don't run away. I still have something to ask you." "Hero Xiao, please ask. I'll tell you everything I know." The smiling Mithria wiped the sweat on his head and said softly. Xiao Chen put down his chopsticks and asked slowly, "I'm afraid you didn't come to Green Rock Sect just to make knife-shaved noodles for me this time, right? Tell me, why are you here? Don't try to fool me, or I'll let you fly down from Greenstone Mountain and experience how a horse flies to death." The smiling Mithria Buddha was stunned. He thought quickly, wanting to lie to brush Xiao Chen off. However, before he could say anything, he heard Xiao Chen snort coldly. "Think carefully about what to say. Don't seek death." Feeling the murderous intent exuded by Xiao Chen, the smiling Mithria shivered. He knew that he was not joking, so he gritted his teeth and said, "Actually, I received news from the higher-ups that Green Rock Sect found a lot of top-level spiritual jades according to the treasure map left by the sect. So, they sent me to bring people to snatch them. As a result, I met you at the foot of the mountain." "Spiritual jades?" Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows and turned his head to ask non-committally, "Senior Gu, is this guy telling the truth?" Spiritual jades were good things for cultivation. Xiao Chen was naturally tempted when he heard it. However, since it was found by Green Rock Sect, he would not take advantage of them. If he wanted to get it, he naturally had other ways. For example, he could plunder those shameless sects in Wulin. Well, it's true. A while ago, when Xan Xiang was renovating his house, he accidentally found a treasure map left by a senior of the sect. Then, according to the location marked on the map, he found a lot of spiritual jades in the back mountain of Greenstone Mountain. Gu Chongyi nodded slightly and confirmed the statement of the smiling Mithria. "Oh, it seems that you are not lying. In that case, who is your higher-up? What do they need so many spiritual jades for?" Xiao Chen pondered for a while and turned to ask the smiling Mithria. The smiling Mithria hesitated for a while. He did not dare to expose the identity of his higher-up, but he was also afraid that Xiao Chen would be angry and make him fly away. After weighing the pros and cons, he could only answer vaguely, I received orders from the Yin Yun sect. As for why they want the spiritual jades, I am not too sure. After all, I am only following orders." I dare not ask too many questions. Yun sect? Xiao Qin frowned. Wasn't that the sect that Ling Er was in? How was it related to the smiling Mithraea? Could it be that the Yun sect was the peak of the joyful clan in the Wulin? I remember that the Yun sect is an upright sect. How is it related to the joyful clan, a demonic sect? Gu Chongyi suddenly spoke and asked suspiciously. TSK, looks like you are really not afraid of death. How can you come up with such a clumsy lie? Upon hearing that, Xiao Qin laughed coldly and said, I think I should let you have a taste of suffering. Otherwise you will not tell the truth. Standing up, Xiao Qin immediately flashed in front of the smiling Mithraea and picked him up like a little chick. He strode to the window and opened it. As the Green Rock sect's guest hall was originally built on the edge of a cliff, the outside of the window was a bottomless abyss. There was not even a place to stand. Xiao Qin grabbed the smiling Mithraea's left leg and directly carried him out of the window. Don't. Xiao Hero Xiao, everything I said is the truth. I'm not lying. Please be magnanimous and spare me. Half of the smiling Mithraea's body was hanging outside the window. When he lowered his head, he saw the bottomless cliff below. He was so frightened that he almost peed his pants. He quickly stuttered and begged for mercy. All right, tell me everything honestly and I will consider letting you live. Otherwise. Xiao Qin did not continue speaking. Instead, he loosened his fingers slightly. The smiling Mithraea felt his chubby body suddenly sink. Chapter 976. Hero Xiao, please don't let go. I'll tell you everything. The smiling Mithraea's body tensed up. He felt a sudden surge of heat between his legs, wetting his pants and gradually flowing down his waist. However, the smiling Mithraea couldn't care less at this moment. With a long face he quickly explained, the Yun sect and the Joyous clan have only recently started working together in secret. Their goal is to obtain the spiritual jades of the Green Rock sect. As for what they want to do with it, I really have no idea. I'm just an errand boy. Please have mercy and let me go. Alright, I'll believe you this once. Xiao Qin guessed that the smiling Mithraea was not lying this time. He lifted his hands slightly, dragged him in, and threw him on the ground. The smiling Mithraea was saved from death's door. He collapsed on the ground and did not get up for a long time. Xiao Qin looked down at him and said coldly, Your noodle cooking skills are not bad. Stay in the Green Rock sect for a few days. Continue to make knife-shaved noodles for us. Don't think about escaping or spreading any news. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Do you understand? After listening to the smiling Mithraea's confession, Xiao Qin guessed that since the Yun sect was determined to obtain the spiritual jades, they would definitely not let it go. The smiling Mithraea had a bad start and did not get what he wanted. They would definitely send someone else to snatch it. If that was the case, he might as well leave the smiling Mithraea here as bait. When the Yun sect arrived, he would catch them all in one fell swoop. Got it? The smiling Mithraea struggled to sit up and agreed while still in shock. He was still panting heavily and a large part of his pants was wet, emitting a foul smell. It's so smelly that I can't eat properly. Xiao Qin chased him away. Tian Suruan was sitting closest to the window, so the smell was the strongest. He quickly covered his nose and protested unhappily. Did you hear that? Get lost. Don't bother us if there's nothing important. Xiao Qin waved his hand and sent the smiling Mithraea away. Smiling Mithraea felt as if he had been pardoned. He got up, nodded and bowed and retreated. However, when he reached the door he was stopped by Xiao Qin again. Wait. So, what other instructions does Hero Xiao have? The smiling Mithraea was about to cry, and his face was distorted beyond recognition. Since you're already a regular customer, I don't need to explain the rules, right? Staying in the Green Rock sect would still cost 100 million per day. Food and necessities will be counted separately. Remember to give the money to Brother Xiang. I'll pay on Sunday. The rooms here have all been newly renovated and are much more comfortable than before. You guys are really lucky. Xiao Qin said with a smile, then ignored the smiling Mithraea and continued to call everyone to eat. Oh. Smiling Mithraea answered with grievance, bowed and retreated. Although he was about to go mad with anger, he remembered that the experts of the Yun sect were about to arrive. Xiao Qin wouldn't be able to show off for long, so he decided to endure it for now. When the time came he would settle the score with him. After eating, Jing Xinxiang brought Xiao Qin and the others to the rooms arranged for them to rest. After a day's journey, everyone was exhausted. Although they had a car, sitting in a car for more than 10 hours in a row would also make people deeply tired. Therefore, after everyone took a shower, they all went to bed early. The next morning, the smiling Mithriya was still sleeping soundly when he was woken up by a disciple of the Green Rock sect. He passed on Xiao Chen's instructions, ordering him to immediately make a few bowls of knife-shaved noodles. Xiao Chen and the others had already woken up. After washing up, they would have breakfast. The smiling Mithriya's heart was about to explode, but he didn't dare to refuse. He could only rub his sleepy eyes, wake up his subordinates and rush to the kitchen together. He was afraid that if he neglected Xiao Chen, he would be taught a lesson later. Smiling Mithriya, how did you end up doing such menial work? What the hell happened? In the kitchen, the smiling Mithriya was making knife-shaved noodles with his head lowered. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside him and looked at him with a puzzled expression. Who are you? How do you know me? The smiling Mithriya was so frightened that he took a few steps back. He stared at the person and asked. The person had a full beard and a rough appearance, but his eyes were very cunning. He didn't know the smiling Mithriya at all, but he was surprised that the person could call out his name. Don't be so surprised. I'm Pan Xianzong from the Yin Yun sect, a cultivator at the peak of the 7th level Martial King realm. Sect leader Zhua sent me here. Pan Xianzong frowned and introduced himself. He then looked at the smiling Mithriya whose face was covered in flour and said with slight disdain, Tell me what happened. Where is that Xiao Chen? Senior Pan, it's an honor to meet you. Here's what happened. The smiling Mithriya was overjoyed. He quickly put down the dough in his hand and cupped his hands at Pan Xianzong. He then told Pan Xianzong everything that had happened to him. Ignorant child. Ignorant. How arrogant. Pan Xianzong snorted in disdain. The smiling Mithriya looked behind Pan Xianzong and asked carefully, By the way, Senior Pan, didn't sect leader Zhua say that he would send more experts to help? Why are you the only one here? Where are the other seniors? Oh, I happen to be doing a mission nearby. I received the order to come here first. There are 2 perfected Martial King Realm senior brothers on their way. They will be here soon. Pan Xianzong said calmly. That's great. Then shall we wait for the 2 senior brothers to arrive before we make our move? The smiling Mithriya was overjoyed. He thought to himself, Little servant Xiao Chen, I'll let you torment me. Your good days are over. Even if you're a Daluo Golden Celestial, you won't be able to escape from 3 Martial King Realm cultivators. There's no need. Pan Xianzong waved his hand and rejected the smiling Mithriya's suggestion. I can kill Xiao Chen on my own. How can I trouble the 2 senior brothers? Wouldn't that make me look useless? When they arrive, we can just move the spiritual jades. Pan Xianzong was not boasting. The smiling Mithriya knew his abilities like the back of his hand. Pan Xianzong was a powerful man. Apart from his strength at the peak of level 7 Martial King Realm, he was especially good at using hidden weapons. His flying dagger technique was superb. Even a perfected Martial King Realm cultivator would have to be wary of him. I'll listen to Senior Pan. The smiling Mithriya nodded and wiped the flour off his hands. I don't need to make any more knife-shaved noodles. I've been suffocating for the past 2 days. As he spoke, the smiling Mithriya picked up the dough on the chopping board and smashed it on the ground. Perhaps he was still angry. He jumped onto the dough and stomped on it twice. That's enough. Go and get Xiao Chen here. I'll deal with him. You go and interrogate the people from Greenstone sect about the whereabouts of the spiritual jades. Pan Xianzong squinted at the smiling Mithriya's good-for-nothing look. He was annoyed and amused at the same time. He ordered impatiently. Chapter 977. In Pan Xianzong's eyes, no matter how powerful Xiao Chen was, he was only at the Demon King level. He did not even care about a Martial King peak, let alone a young junior like Xiao Chen. The outer martial arts world was really different from the inner martial arts world. The outer martial arts world was full of cowardly cultivators like the smiling Mithriya. When they were caught, they did not know how to escape. They were even willing to be servants. It was so embarrassing. Okay, I'll go now. Please wait here for a moment. After the smiling Mithriya stamped on the ground, his shoes and trousers were covered with flour. However, he did not care to wipe them and ran out happily. Since the helper had arrived, the smiling Mithriya's courage was also strengthened. He felt that no matter how powerful Xiao Chen was, he was definitely no match for Pan Xianzong. One had to know that even a Martial King peak might not be able to escape from Pan Xianzong's flying knife, let alone a kid who was not even fully grown. At this time, Xiao Chen was sitting in the living room casually. Seeing the smiling Maitreya suddenly rushing in with nothing in his hands, his face could not help but sink. He asked in a dangerous tone, "Shaved Maitreya, it seems that you don't take my words seriously? I've just asked someone to inform you that I want to eat breakfast. Now you come to see me empty-handed. What do you mean? Did you not see enough of yesterday's scenery?" No, Hero Xiao, don't be angry." Seeing that Xiao Chen's face was not good, the smiling Maitreya's original 100% courage suddenly lost half of it. He stopped abruptly and said timidly, "I don't want to be angry with you," Xiao Chen said lightly. The smiling Maitreya just breathed a sigh of relief and heard him continue, "But the scenery outside the window is good. I can carry you to have a look." After that, Xiao Chen stood up and walked step by step toward the smiling Maitreya. As he walked, he slowly rolled up his sleeves. The smiling Maitreya suddenly shivered, and his remaining courage dissipated. He had a premonition that he would be beaten soon, so he quickly explained like a machine gun, "I don't know if you are free now, Master Xiao? There's someone in the kitchen who wants to see you. He specifically asked me to tell you that he has something important to discuss with you." Xiao Chen had just walked in front of the smiling Maitreya and stared at him with a faint smile. The smiling Maitreya's legs went soft, and he almost knelt down. Finally, he held on and forced a guilty smile. His back was drenched in cold sweat. In fact, Xiao Chen had already sensed with his divine sense that a foreign cultivator had snuck into Greenrock sect. However, he pretended not to know and teased with a smile, "Oh? Who wants to see me? He's actually in the kitchen. Could it be that there's a new pastry chef?" Yes. Actually, it's one of my subordinates. Not only is he good at making shaved noodles, but he also admires you very much. So, he wants to invite you over to taste the new flavor of shaved noodles that he specially made for you. The smiling Maitreya rolled his eyes and quickly replied respectfully. He was a little happy in his heart. Originally, he couldn't find a way to fool Xiao Chen. He didn't expect that Xiao Chen would directly help him think of a reason. "Oh, it turns out to be my admirer. Well, then I'll go and have a look. If he can really make shaved noodles well, then I'll promote him to a high-level pastry chef. In the future, he can enjoy a generous treatment. At the end of the year, he'll even get a double salary and a paid holiday." Xiao Chen looked like he suddenly understood. He nodded in a serious manner, walked around the smiling Maitreya and went directly to the kitchen. When the smiling Maitreya saw that there was a chance, he immediately became energetic. He first watched him leave in a flattering manner. When Xiao Chen walked far away, he followed him from a distance. He sneered in his heart. "I'll let you show off for a few more minutes. I'll see how you die later." Outside the kitchen, the smiling Maitreya didn't dare to get too close. He was afraid that he would be accidentally injured by the flying knife. He looked around and simply found a place that was neither too far nor too close to hide. He stuck his head out and stared at the kitchen door. The smiling Maitreya was not stupid. He planned to confirm that Xiao Chen was really dead, and then he would find Gu Chongyi to interrogate about the whereabouts of the spiritual jade. Although he didn't doubt Pan Xinzong's ability, Xiao Chen's flying sword was also very powerful. In case both sides were injured, he could go up and stab Pan Xinzong, right? Xiao Chen swaggered into the kitchen, glanced at Pan Xinzong and said slowly, "You're the new pastry chef, right? I'm here. Hurry up and show me your shaved noodles. This young master's stomach is about to flatten from hunger. I'm just waiting to eat your knife-shaved noodles." "Xiao Chen, I didn't expect you to really dare to come and see me." Pan Xinzong had seen Xiao Chen's photo before, so when Xiao Chen came in he confirmed it. He didn't care what Xiao Chen said and snorted, "I thought it would take a lot of effort. It seems that you are also an idiot. You don't even know that you're about to die." Pan Xinzong didn't say much nonsense. He directly ran his mind cultivation method, moved his qi to his dantian, and then took out a flying knife from behind him and held it in his hand. "Oh, not bad. I didn't expect you to bring your own shaving tools. It seems that the fat man with shaved noodles didn't recommend wrongly. You do have some skills. Hurry up and make the noodles. I can't wait." Xiao Chen crossed his arms in front of his chest and said with a face full of expectation, "Kid, you're courting death." Seeing Xiao Chen's indifferent look, Pan Xinzong was furious. The flying knife in his hand quickly condensed a mist. Pan Xinzong suddenly waved his hand, and the flying knife attacked Xiao Chen's face at an extremely fast speed. Whoosh! There was a sound of something breaking through the air. Pan Xinzong was standing in the same place complacently, waiting for the flying knife to kill Xiao Chen with one blow. In the end, an unexpected scene appeared. Xiao suddenly disappeared from the place where he stood. The flying knife directly passed through the place where Xiao originally stood and flew out of the door. Soon it disappeared without a trace. Smiling Mithriya, who was hiding not far away and staring at the door, only felt a flash of light, and a cold wind flew past his cheek. He didn't know what happened, so he subconsciously touched his face, but he felt a tingling pain on his face. He looked down at his hand and found that there was blood and a few broken hairs. Hiss! Smiling Mithriya couldn't help but be shocked. He suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. That wind just now was Pan Xinzong's flying knife. If he had taken a wrong step, he would probably have been blown up in the head. Pan Xinzong was also surprised at this time. Where was Xiao? How could he just disappear like that? Why did such a good dough be thrown on the ground? This is made from the hard work of the farmers. It's such a waste. A voice suddenly came from the other side. Pan Xinzong turned his head abruptly and saw Xiao carefully picking up the dough that the smiling Mithriya Buddha had thrown earlier. Xiao patted the dust off the dough carefully and said indignantly, "Who threw this? Tell me quickly. I promise I won't kill him." Chapter 978. This. A few of the smiling Mithriya's underlings were hiding in the kitchen. They looked at each other in dismay. They were afraid of the devil-like Xiao, but they did not dare to reveal the smiling Mithriya's identity. They could only look around and pretend that they did not hear what Xiao had said. However, Xiao did not intend to ask anything. He had sensed Pan Xinzong's attack with his divine sense as a cultivator and dodged in time. However, he happened to see the dough on the ground. Even if he thought with his toes, he would know that it was definitely the doing of the smiling Mithriya. How did you dodge it? That's impossible. Even a level 10 martial king would not be able to dodge my flying daggers. Are you already a martial venerable? Pan Xinzong looked at Xiao in disbelief. He only saw a figure flash past before his eyes, and then his flying dagger missed. He did not see Xiao movements at all, so he was extremely shocked. What martial king or martial venerable? Are you here to make shaved noodles or not? You can't even hold on to your own tool and it flew away. It seems that your cooking is only SOSO. Xiao glared at Pan Xinzong in dissatisfaction. He walked over with the dough and placed it on the table in front of Pan Xinzong. He waved his hand unhurriedly and said, "Come, come, come. This young master will give you another chance. Watch carefully this time. I'll cut your grandmother's ass." This time, Pan Xinzong finally understood what Xiao was saying. He immediately felt that he had suffered a great humiliation. He was so angry that he trembled. He took out 2 throwing knives from his clothes and flung them at Xiao. One of them was aimed at Xiao's heart, and the other sealed off Xiao's path of retreat. This killing saber was Pan Xinzong's signature move. It was a pincer attack that blocked all escape routes. Very few people could dodge it. Even if a level 10 martial king managed to dodge it with all his might, he would still be injured. Puff puff. Xiao had no time to dodge. His chest and back were pierced by the flying daggers at the same time. "Brat, weren't you being stubborn just now? What about now? You don't feel good being pierced by my flying daggers, do you?" Pan Xinzong narrowed his eyes with a joyful expression. The flying dagger was deeply embedded in Xiao's chest, almost to the hilt. However, although he was seriously injured, Xiao still stood there without any change in his expression, as if he had no reaction. Pan Xinzong laughed and said, "Don't try to be brave. Let me tell you, both of my deadly demon blades are coated with poison. Don't think that you can still rely on your devil chi to hold on. It won't be long before the poison seeps into your internal organs. Just wait for your 7 apertures to bleed and you'll die in pain." Ah. Sigh, it seems that not only are your skills bad, your eyesight is also bad. Xiao shook his head. He raised the dough in his hand and waved it in front of Pan Xinzong. With a helpless expression he said, "Do you think stabbing a knife into the dough is called knife-shaved noodles? With your skills you still dare to come out and embarrass yourself? What specially made knife-shaved noodles? I find it shameful even to be my admirer. You should go back and train for a few more years." What? Pan Xinzong only felt that there was a blur in front of him, and the scene in front of him suddenly changed. He saw Xiao holding the dough in his left hand and standing there leisurely. And the 2 flying knives that he had just shot out were firmly inserted into the dough. This. Pan Xinzong opened his mouth wide and was speechless. He was stunned for a while before shouting loudly, "This is impossible. The flying knives were clearly inserted into your body just now. How did they run into the dough?" I already said that your eyesight is bad. Why don't you believe me? Xiaoqin sighed. His left hand shook slightly, and the 2 flying knives fell to the ground with a clang. Just now, he simply set up an illusion to make Pan Xinzong think that he was shot by the flying knives. In fact, he just used the dough to catch the flying knives. T. Pan Xinzong's face was flushed. He turned his head angrily and asked the smiling Methrya's men who were hiding far away by the window, "You guys, tell me the truth. Was Xiaoqin stabbed by the flying knives just now? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise I will kill you." Yes. The smiling Methrya's men looked at each other, scratched their heads and answered with uncertainty. In fact, what they saw just now was the illusion of Xiaoqin being stabbed, but Xiaoqin was still standing there, alive and kicking without any injury. What the hell is going on? Alright, stop talking nonsense. Do you know how to make shaved noodles or not? With your crappy skills, even if you make noodles, it will be a waste of materials. Just die. Xiaoqin directly blew the dough in his hand at Pan Xinzong's head. Ah. Before Pan Xinzong could react, he felt a flash of cold light. 2 flying knives instantly pierced his eyes. Pan Xinzong only had time to scream before he fell straight down. His face was pale green and he stopped breathing in the blink of an eye. He didn't understand what had happened until he died. The smiling Methrya was afraid of being accidentally injured by the flying knives, so he deliberately moved closer and hid behind the door. As a result, when he poked his head out, he saw the scene of 2 flying knives piercing Pan Xinzong's head with the dough. He was immediately shocked. He thought that Pan Xinzong would be able to deal with Xiaoqin easily, but he didn't expect to be fooled by Xiaoqin and lose his life in the end. This Xiaoqin was simply too terrifying. Shaved noodles Methrya, stop hiding. Hurry up and get in here. Xiaoqin patted the flour on his hands and shouted outside the door. Yes. What orders do you have, Hero Xiao? The smiling Methrya shivered and didn't dare to hide anymore. He quickly ran to Xiaoqin, his legs shaking non-stop, and his face was humble. What kind of D*Ned noodle chef did you find? With this skill, didn't you see him cut himself to death? This young master is still hungry. Are you deliberately messing with me? Xiaoqin frowned and pointed at the smiling Methrya's nose as he scolded. It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. The smiling Methrya broke out in a cold sweat as he waved his hand. Looking at Pan Xinzong, who was lying on the ground, dead, the smiling Methrya couldn't help but complain secretly. What's going on? He absolutely didn't believe that Pan Xinzong could really cut himself to death by shaving noodles, but the truth was in front of him. The scene he saw seemed to be Pan Xinzong cutting the dough with a knife. Otherwise, why was the dough still on the knife? Misunderstanding? Then give this young master an explanation. Otherwise, I'll hang you outside the living room's window for the entire day. Xiaoqin said coldly. The smiling Methrya thought of that scene and immediately shuddered. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said with a bitter face, Hero Xiao, I'm actually not familiar with this guy. I only know that he's your admirer. If I knew that his shaving skills were so bad, I wouldn't have let him do it. Chapter 979. Is that so? Xiaoqin said unhurriedly, then give me a way to deal with this. Let's see if I'm satisfied with it. Oh, don't worry. I'll ask someone. No, I'll cook myself. I'll make breakfast for everyone and send it to you personally. Smiling Methrya forced a smile that was uglier than a crying face. Oh. Xiaoqin purposely dragged out the last syllable. He had a pondering look on his face. When the smiling Methrya's face turned ashen and sweat poured down like rain, he continued, Forget it, the ignorant are not guilty. Hurry up and get to work. If this young master still doesn't see the shaved noodles in 10 minutes, I'll use a knife to cut you up. Do you understand? Glaring at smiling Methrya, Xiaoqin turned around and walked out of the door with his hands behind his back. Yes, I understand. Smiling Methrya nodded repeatedly and then kicked his men who were standing there in a daze. He scolded, What the hell are you waiting for? Do you want me to be cut? Hurry up and get to work. Knead the dough for me quickly. However, before Xiaoqin went far, he suddenly thought of something. He patted his forehead and turned back. He grabbed smiling Methrya and said coldly, Listen. If there are more people coming, I want you to find out what they want the spirit jades for. If you get the answer, continue to cut the noodles. If not, I'll cut you. Oh, I see. Smiling Methrya quickly agreed, then lowered his head and continued to work hard on the shaved noodles. When Xiaochen was really far away, he took out his mobile phone and ran to the side to call Zhuo Fifan. To smiling Mithria's surprise, there was no signal in the kitchen at all. He had no choice but to run out and try to find another place to call. It turned out that the Greenstone sect's signal was very poor, probably because it was on the edge of a cliff. It took him a long time to find a place with a signal. After trying many times, he finally managed to get through. "Hello Mithria, how's it going? Xiaochen should have been killed by Pan Xinzong, right?" After the phone was connected, Zhuo Fifan asked slowly, as if he had the overall situation under control. "Sect leader Zhuo, we've screwed up. I don't know how Pan Xinzong died. I suspect that it was Xiaochen's doing." The smiling Mithria reported anxiously. "What? Pan Xinzong was dead? How could this be? What happened?" Zhuo Fifan was so surprised that he couldn't close his mouth. He was very clear about Pan Xinzong's strength. No matter what, he shouldn't have died in the hands of Xiaochen. Could it be that someone had secretly helped Xiaochen? "It's like this. I was making breakfast in the kitchen this morning, and then Pan Xinzong came over and asked me to lead Xiaochen to the kitchen." The smiling Mithria didn't dare to neglect and directly told the previous situation. Well? Zhuo Fifan was confused. He also didn't know how Pan Xinzong had died. After thinking for a long time, he gave up and said, "Forget it. Maybe Xiaochen was lucky. Anyway, don't act rashly for now. Find a chance to find out where the spiritual jade is hidden. Then wait for the other two masters to come, and then we can deal with Xiaochen together." The cause of Pan Xinzong's death was no longer important. The key now was to get the spiritual jade first. "Okay. But sect leader Zhuo, I've worked so hard and risked my life to deal with this matter for you. If I succeed this time, can you reward me?" The smiling Mithria rolled his eyes and said conveniently, "Reward? What kind of reward do you want?" Zhuo Fifan was stunned and asked subconsciously. The smiling Mithria said carefully, "I heard that all the sects in the martial arts world are collecting spiritual jade to prepare for something big, and they can also get great benefits. At that time, can you share some with me, sect leader Zhuo?" In fact, the smiling Mithria just wanted to get some information from Zhuo Fifan. After all, Xiaochen had told him, so he didn't dare not to ask. With Xiaochen's weird temper, he might find a reason to kill him at any time. Maybe he could use this information to exchange for a way out? "Mithria, I know you've worked hard for the Yinyun sect and the Joyful clan, and I'll remember it." Zhuo Fifan said earnestly, "It's not that I don't want to share with you, but your strength is too low. You should know that you can't go to the venerable secret land without reaching the great perfection of the Demon King. Even if I sign up for you, it will be a waste in the end." Zhuo Fifan didn't guard against the smiling Mithria. Anyway, this matter had already been spread in the martial arts world. He just needed to remind him to keep it a secret in the martial arts world. The venerable secret land? What is that place? The smiling Mithria heard the new term, so he became spirited and asked quickly. The venerable secret land is prepared for the martial king and the demon king to advance to the venerable realm. Zhuo Fifan had nothing to do, so he simply chatted with the smiling Mithria. After every cultivator reaches the martial king or the great perfection of the demon king, they can go to the venerable secret land to improve their strength and advance their cultivation to the venerable realm. Oh, what does it have to do with spiritual jades? The smiling Mithria was excited in his heart. Venerable. This is the height that I can only look up to. Opening the venerable secret land requires a lot of spiritual jades, so the major sects in the martial arts world are in a hurry to prepare now. Zhuo Fifan answered. I see. The smiling Mithria murmured, and he was a little disappointed. If I had worked harder and reached the great perfection of the Demon King, maybe I could also get a place this time. Alas, if I knew it would be like this, why did I do it in the beginning? But don't worry. Although you can't go to the venerable secret land, as long as you do this thing well, I won't treat you badly in other aspects. Zhuo Fifan said kindly. When the smiling Mithria was about to express his gratitude, Zhuo Fifan suddenly changed his tone and warned him in a low voice. But you have to remember that what I just said is absolutely confidential. I tell you because I trust you. Don't tell anyone else or you will die. No, I won't. I will definitely keep my mouth shut. I won't tell anyone even if you beat me to death. Zhuo Fifan's gloomy tone made the smiling Mithria shudder, and he hurriedly swore. Don't be so nervous. I also believe that you won't. I just want to remind you first. Zhuo Fifan's tone changed again and he said gently. The smiling Mithria almost thought that Zhuo Fifan had some kind of voice-changing magic skill, so he didn't dare to say more and just answered submissively. Well, then you go on with your business. I will ask those two masters to go there as soon as possible. Zhuo Fifan said a few more words and hung up the phone. The smiling Mithria put away the phone and walked around in circles. He was so worried that he frowned and felt very embarrassed. Originally he wanted to tell Xiaoqin all the news, but now he didn't dare to say it. Chapter 980. If he told them everything he might still have a chance to live, but he would definitely be killed by Zhuo Fifan when he returned. But if he didn't tell them, he probably wouldn't even be able to go back. He would be killed by Xiaoqin sooner or later. What should he do? The smiling Mithria, who was in a dilemma, stared blankly for a while. He really couldn't think of a better idea, so he could only go back dejectedly. It seemed that he could only take one step at a time and hope that the two experts who came later could kill Xiaoqin so that he could escape from the abyss of suffering sooner. The smiling Mithria didn't have to wait too long. That evening, two peak perfection experts from the Yin Yun sect rushed to the Green Rock sect with a little girl. They first hid outside and observed for a while. They found a few disciples of the Joyful clan going in and out of the kitchen, seemingly preparing ingredients. The three of them prepared to go to the kitchen and find those disciples to ask about the smiling Mithria's whereabouts. But as soon as they stepped into the kitchen, they saw the smiling Mithria standing in front of the stove, preparing dinner. It saved them a lot of trouble. They directly went forward and reported their sect. "Oh, it's the three experts from the Yin Yin sect. You're finally here. I missed you so much." The smiling Mithria had been on tenterhooks for the whole afternoon. Now that he saw the three of them, he was happier than seeing his own mother. The three people from the Yin Yun sect looked at each other, a little confused. None of them were familiar with this smiling Mithria. Where did this "missed you so much" come from? Wasn't he a little too enthusiastic? The smiling Mithria's excitement wasn't fake. He originally thought that only two people would come. He didn't expect that there would be three of them at once. It seemed that Zhuo Fifan attached great importance to Xiaoqin and Ling Yu. He was saved now. The smiling Mithria secretly observed them and found that the two middle-aged men looked very similar. Their gestures were very compatible. He guessed that they should be twins. The other girl was quite beautiful, but she was from the Yin Yun sect. The smiling Mithria didn't dare to have any ideas about her. He could only sneak a few more glances to feast his eyes. After observing them, the smiling Mithria smiled and greeted them enthusiastically. "I'm the smiling Mithria. I believe sect leader Zhuo has already introduced me to the experts. How should I address you?" "Amo Zaidi." One of the twins, a man with a mole on his nose, glanced at the smiling Mithria in disdain and introduced himself in a cold tone. "Don't carry oars." Another man with a scar at the corner of his eye looked at the distance outside the window with his hands behind his back as he calmly announced his name. "Oh, since the two of you are unwilling to reveal your names, then I won't force you." The smiling Mithria looked embarrassed, feeling a little depressed. It was said that the cultivators of the internal martial arts world were very arrogant. This time they finally saw it. They didn't even want to mention their names. They even talked about classical Chinese. How could they continue to cooperate happily in the future? My name is Ling Er." Ling Er, on the other hand, smiled amiably and explained to the smiling Mithria, "These two senior uncles don't usually like to talk. They've already introduced themselves. Amo Zaidi and Amo Zayu are their names." "Oh, I see. It's Junior's misunderstanding, my apologies." The smiling Mithria suddenly came to a realization. He cursed in his heart, but he still looked very enthusiastic on the surface. He asked politely, "I wonder if you guys have had dinner? Do you want me to arrange for my subordinates to make some simple meals for you to fill your stomachs first?" Ling Er waved her hand and said, "Don't be in a hurry to cook. We're not here to eat. Tell us about Xiaoqin first." Previously, Ling Er happened to be training in the internal martial arts world with her two senior uncles. Zhuo Fifan wanted to find someone to kill Xiaoqin. Originally, he only planned to call Amo Zaidi and Amo Zayu, but when he heard that Ling Er was also there, his mind immediately became active. Zhuo Fifan knew that Ling Er and Xiaoqin had a good relationship. He thought that since Xiaoqin could kill a peak level 7 demon king, he must have some tricks up his sleeves. So, he planned to send two expert disciples to test him first. If he was really too strong, then he would send Ling Er to use a honey trap to deal with Xiaoqin. After all, it wasn't easy for the Mo brothers to advance to martial king perfection stage. There was no need to fight until both sides suffered. Anyway, Ling Er had already used a honey trap to get the forging materials. This time it should be easy to get Xiaoqin to take the bait. Okay. But I want to ask a presumptuous question first. May I know your cultivation level? The smiling Mithra asked tentatively. Xiao Qian's methods were strange. If the two people who came were lower than Pan Xianzong, then there was no need to go at all. Mo Zaidi and Mo Zaya both glared at the smiling Mithra as if reprimanding him for doubting his ability. Ling saw that the situation was not good, so she spoke first. Both senior uncles are martial king perfection stage, there's no problem. You two are really powerful. Then, according to Miss Linger, let's deal with Xiao Qian first. Here's the thing. The smiling Mithra was wild with joy. He quickly told them about Pan Xianzong's death, then looked at the Mo brothers expectantly, waiting for them to make a decision. Two martial king perfection stage experts. That's just too awesome. Xiao Qian will definitely die this time. DSK, he's just a kid. Even if he's a demon king, how strong can he be? Do you think he can dodge our joint attack? Stop talking nonsense, hurry up and take us to kill him. Sect leader Zhua is still waiting for news. Mo Zaidi waved his hand disdainfully. He couldn't wait to deal with Xiao Qian. The sooner he was done, the sooner he could report back. Mo Zaidi and Mo Zaya were born and raised in the Yin sect. Due to their strong telepathy, they were several times more powerful than a normal person when they fought. Furthermore, they were the best candidates to cultivate joint attacks. With joint attacks, they were like tigers that had grown wings. They were able to run amok in the martial world and had yet to taste defeat. In the eyes of the Mo brothers, Xiao Qian was already a dead man. Hence, they could not be bothered to waste any more time. On one hand, they wanted to avenge Pan Xianzong as soon as possible. On the other hand, they wanted to get their hands on the spiritual jades so that they could return to the Yin sect and prepare for the martial honors secret realm. Alright, please follow me. We're going to find trouble with Xiao Qian. The smiling Mithra hurriedly made an inviting gesture and led the two to the guest hall. The smiling Mithra's footsteps were light and he was both shocked and excited. He never thought that not only were the twins at the martial king perfection stage, they also possessed joint attacks. One should know that a joint attack was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. It was an existence that was many times more powerful than an ordinary martial skill. It was said that as long as it was used well, it could even defeat a martial honor. Not to mention Xiao Qian, a mere demon king level brat. Chapter 981. Linger's expression darkened as she watched everyone leave. She followed behind them with a heavy heart. Ever since she had received this mission, Linger had been very worried about Xiao Qian's situation. However, she did not know how to send a message. Although she knew Xiao Qian's phone number, she did not even have the chance to send a message on her way here. Although she had heard that Xiao Qian had dealt with Pan Xianzong, which showed that he was very strong, Linger still believed that her two martial uncles were much more powerful than Pan Xianzong. Furthermore, the two of them had joined forces to deal with him. This meant that Xiao Qian's chances of winning were even lower. Linger was extremely vexed as she followed the Mo brothers from afar. Because the mission to steal forging information had not been very successful, she and Granny Nanshan had now become negative examples in the Yin sect. On the surface, she had come out to train with her two martial uncles. In reality, Linger knew that Zhuo Fifan had only casually sent her on a mission after he had used her and felt that she was no longer of any value. She was no longer a core disciple. Linger still could not think of a way to let Xiao Qian escape unscathed as they were about to reach the parlor. She had no choice but to find a place to hide and watch from the sidelines. Linger planned to ambush her two martial uncles if the situation went south. She hoped that she could stall them for a while so that Xiao Qian could escape successfully. Bang! The smiling Mithra pushed open the door and swaggered into the parlor. Now that he had the support of an expert, he no longer had to bow and scrape. Instead, he shouted confidently, "Xiao Qian, come out with me. There are two experts who want to talk to you." Where did these experts come from? Why are they looking for me? Could it be that you found another two cooked wheaten food masters and want me to teach them a lesson? Xiao Qian sat in the middle of the parlor with his legs crossed as he asked leisurely. He had already guessed that the Yin sect would not let the matter rest after Pan Xianzong's death. Thus, he had already set up a few surveillance spells in the kitchen. He had clearly heard the conversation between the few people just now. But what surprised Xiao Qian was that Linger actually came too. In fact, Xiao Qian always felt that he owed her something. He always wanted to make it up to her, but he never found the opportunity. Now was a good time, but Cheng Minjing and the others were here. If he were to meet Linger in public, would they be unhappy? Forget it. He could only take it one step at a time. The smiling Mithra didn't know that Xiao Chen's thoughts had drifted to the troubles of too many beautiful women. He said arrogantly, "What master of wheaten food? Let me tell you, the two of them are the top experts of the Yin sect. Let me give you a piece of advice out of goodwill. A wise man submits to circumstances. You'd better hand over all your spiritual jades obediently and kowtow to them to admit your mistake. That way you might be able to keep your life." After saying that with a fake smile, the smiling Mithra stared at Xiao Chen proudly. He felt that this guy was just pretending to be calm. In fact, he must be afraid of death. "Then I'll go take a look." Xiao Chen seemed to be a little interested. He slowly stood up and walked towards the door. The smiling Mithra followed behind him excitedly. Outside the door, Xiao Chen glanced at Mo Zaidi and Mo Zayu and frowned. "Shaved Mithra, are you trying to trick me again? They obviously have hair. How can you say that they're top experts?" The smiling Mithra was momentarily at a loss for words. A wave of anger was stuck in his throat. What kind of situation is this? You're still talking about this with me? Could it be that newborn calves are not afraid of tigers? Ignorant child, take advantage of the opportunity. You still have to say a few more words. We'll send you on your way in a moment. Mo Zaidi ignored Xiao Chen's provocation and gave Mo Zayu a look. Their bodies shook at the same time, revealing the strength of a martial king at the great perfection stage. The fallen leaves in the courtyard began to sway even though there was no wind. Not long after, a white mist gradually enveloped their bodies and spread outwards. A violent shockwave wreaked havoc in the courtyard, violently sweeping up the fallen leaves and shredding them. Wow. Amazing. Are you two going to fuse together like in the Dragon Ball manga? Xiao Chen pretended to be surprised and clapped his hands a few times. Full of enthusiasm, he said, "Come, come, come, I'll help you shout the slogan. Move, 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 stop. Remember to align your fingers. Otherwise, it's none of my business if you fuse together and create a monster." The smiling Mithra was so angry that smoke was almost coming out of his 7 orifices. Was this Xiao Chen an idiot? Did he think he was playing house? However, Mo Zaidi and Mo Zayu were not affected by Xiao Chen. They both closed their eyes and continued to gather their martial qi. The white mist around them grew thicker and thicker, and the shockwave spreading outwards grew stronger. The smiling Mithra standing at the door could clearly feel the wind blowing against his face. "Sai, don't you think it takes too long to gather qi for your ultimate move? If it were anyone else they would have killed you long ago. Only this young master has the time to watch you two act like idiots." Xiao Chen yawned and shook his head in boredom. He directly released his mental power and said expressionlessly, "All right, that's enough." "Ah, Xiao Chen, your time has come." The Mo brothers suddenly laughed maniacally at the same time. As the two of them laughed, the white fog in the courtyard was quickly absorbed and condensed in their palms. Then the Mo brothers suddenly turned around in a strange manner and stood face to face with each other. Both of their palms slapped towards each other. Boom. Mo Zaidi and Mo Zayu's palms collided heavily with each other. Following that, a loud explosion rang out. The white mist suddenly exploded, and the place where they stood immediately exploded. The white mist filled the entire courtyard, and the powerful shockwave spread out in all directions. The entire courtyard was almost destroyed, and the smiling Mithra was sent flying several zhang away, landing heavily on the ground. Amazing. Simply too amazing. The smiling Mithra was stunned for a while before he reacted. He clutched his aching butt and struggled to stand up, praising loudly. After dispersing the white mist around him, the smiling Mithra could vaguely see a large pit in the courtyard. He hurriedly limped over and said flatteringly, "Seniors, that bastard Xiao Chen has been blown into thin air. You two are too awesome." What nonsense are you saying? You've been blown into a daze, haven't you? Before he could rejoice for a few seconds, the smiling Mithra suddenly heard a familiar voice behind him. He was so shocked that his legs turned to jelly and he immediately turned to look. "So, Xiao Chen." Looking at the unharmed Xiao Chen, the smiling Mithra was dumbfounded. He stammered, This doesn't make sense. Didn't you die in the explosion? Are you a human or a ghost? Why are you completely fine?" Chapter 982. That's what I wanted to ask you. Xiao Chen glared fiercely at the smiling Mithra and slapped him on the head. He said angrily, "What kind of crappy master did you find for me this time? Were these two people mentally ill? Why the hell were they playing firecrackers in the yard? Didn't they know it would hurt the plants? Even if they didn't, it's not right to scare others. Luckily they only blew themselves up and didn't hurt anyone else. Otherwise, even if you made shaving noodles for me for the rest of your life, I still wouldn't be able to pay for the medical fees. What? The smiling Mithriya looked like he had seen a ghost. He looked around in horror. As the white mist dissipated, he saw Emo Zaidi and Emo Zaya lying on the ground, motionless. Only then did the smiling Mithriya realize that the Emo brothers had been blown up. What the hell was going on? Weren't they going to use a joint attack to deal with Xiaoqin? Why was he still alive and well? Why did he end up losing his life? Linger, who was hiding not too far away, was also dumbstruck. She was extremely shocked in her heart. She had seen her two martial uncles use their combined martial skill before, and it was indeed very powerful. However, they usually attacked others with their palms. Why did they suddenly attack each other just now? Could it be that they were in a hurry to get rid of Xiaoqin and accidentally went berserk? Don't play dumb. It was a perfectly good yard, but those two guys blew up a big hole. This repair fee is on your head. Remember to pay for it from Brother Xiang. Xiaoqin glanced at Linger's hiding place and didn't expose her immediately. Instead, he waved his hand and said indifferently, "All right, is everything all right? Hurry up and go back to shaving noodles. It's almost mealtime, don't think of slacking off." Got it? The smiling Mithriya nodded dejectedly and limped to the kitchen while clutching his butt. He was still puzzled. What the smiling Mithriya didn't know was that Xiaoqin had used his psychic energy to control Emo Zaidi's and Emo Zayu's consciousnesses, forcing them to kill each other. That was why both of them were killed in action, but there was not a single flaw on the outside. If one wasn't a cultivator, they wouldn't be able to see through the trick at all. The smiling Mithriya Buddha couldn't figure out what had just happened as he walked. He felt that Xiaoqin must have possessed some kind of demonic sorcery. Otherwise, how could he have escaped unscathed under such a strong attack? And even killed Emo Zaidi and Emo Zayu, two martial king realm experts, on the spot without anyone noticing? The more smiling Mithriya thought about it, the more scared he became. His slow walk gradually turned into a jog, and he ran faster and faster towards the kitchen. Dashing into the kitchen, the smiling Mithriya ordered his disciples to pack up quickly and prepare to escape back to the joyful clan overnight. He felt that Xiaoqin was too scary. If he stayed here, he could lose his life at any time. And it was the kind of death that was mysterious and unpredictable. Instead of waiting to be slaughtered, it was better to escape as soon as possible. After all, as the saying goes, where there's life, there's hope. Just as the kitchen was in a mess, the kitchen door was suddenly pushed open with a creak. The smiling Mithriya Buddha was shocked, thinking that Xiaoqin had come again. He quickly took a piece of dough and pretended to knead the dough on the chopping board. The other disciples also looked at each other in a panic. Some of them ran to the corner, while others simply threw the things in their hands on the ground, pretending that nothing had happened. The kitchen door opened and Linger walked in. Seeing the smiling Mithriya Buddha and the others in a panic, she asked in surprise, What are you doing? Why did you make such a mess in the kitchen?" "Oh, it's Miss Ling. Next time, knock on the door before you come in. I was almost scared to death by you." The smiling Mithriya Buddha immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He put down the dough in his hands and ordered his subordinates to continue cleaning up. "I asked you, what are you doing? All of you are in a hurry. Are you preparing to escape?" Ling looked at the scene in front of her with a puzzled expression. She originally wanted to go to Xiaoqin directly, but considering that the smiling Mithriya Buddha was still in Greenstone faction, it was not convenient for her to act on her own. Moreover, she had to report the death of her two uncle masters to the faction, so she came to the kitchen first. "Oh, my Miss Ling, what are you talking about? Of course I have to escape. Your two uncle masters are so powerful, but they were killed by Xiaoqin in the end. Why can't I escape with my insignificant cultivation? Am I supposed to stay here and wait for death?" The smiling Mithriya Buddha's face fell, and he complained incessantly. If he had known this would happen, he would have taken the opportunity to escape when Emo Zaidi and Emo Zayu were looking for trouble, so as to avoid unnecessary trouble. How can that be? Wait a moment, I'll call the faction leader first and see what he has to say. Ling directly rejected the smiling Mithriya Buddha's idea. She took out her phone and dialed Zhuofifan's number. The smiling Mithriya Buddha was very anxious, but he did not dare to leave without permission, so he could only walk around in the kitchen like an ant on a hot pan. Soon Linger's call went through, and Zhuofifan's voice came from the other end. "Ling, how's it going? Has Xiaoqin been killed by your two uncle masters?" Reporting to faction leader Zhua, Xiaoqin is still alive. I don't know what happened to the two uncle masters, but they killed each other. Ling tried her best to describe how the two uncle masters died from qi deviation. What did you say? They're all dead? Zhua Fifan thought he had heard it wrong, so he confirmed with Ling again, and then he believed that the Mo brothers were really dead. However, he still found it hard to accept, so he asked subconsciously, where is the smiling Maitreya Buddha? Is he still alive? He's here, he's still alive. I'll let him talk to you. Ling put down her phone, pressed the speaker button, and signaled the smiling Maitreya Buddha to say something to Zhua Fifan. Faction leader Zhua, thank you for your concern. I'm still alive. That Xiaoqin is so powerful. He didn't even need to make a move to kill those two experts. They were peak martial king realm. Xiaoqin must have used some sorcery. The smiling Maitreya Buddha said, trembling with fear. Well, Zhua Fifan was speechless. He didn't expect Xiaoqin to be so powerful. After thinking carefully for a long time, he said in a low voice, forget it, it seems that I underestimated him this time. Xiaoqin is definitely not a devil king. Maybe he has reached the venerable realm. Venerable. Venerable. The smiling Maitreya Buddha was so scared that he trembled. His legs went soft and he directly knelt on the ground. Did I hear it wrong? Did I offend? Venerable? Oh my God. It's a miracle that I'm still alive and didn't lose my life. Why didn't Xiaoqin kill me? Is it because my knife-shaved noodles are so delicious that I survived? Chapter 983. That must be it. Pan Xianzong and the Mo brothers didn't know how to make knife-shaved noodles, so Xiaoqin killed them because he was unhappy. Smiling Maitreya, there's no need for you to stay here. Just find a chance to leave. I'll think of other ways to deal with Xiaoqin. Zhua Fifan didn't want to talk to the timid smiling Maitreya, so he ordered calmly. Smiling Maitreya nodded repeatedly. Then he realized that Zhua Fifan couldn't see him nodding, so he said hurriedly, okay leader Zhua. I'll listen to you. Zhua Fifan nodded and thought for a while. Then he said, Ling you've been in contact with Xiaoqin before, so you should know his weakness. In this situation, we can only rely on you to sacrifice your beauty and see if you can get some spiritual jades from Xiaoqin. Okay, I'll try my best. Ling said expressionlessly. She had already guessed that Zhua Fifan was up to no good and only used her as a tool. Fortunately, Xiaoqin was not a bad person and treated her very well, so she didn't resist and agreed. Well, that's all for now. Contact me when there's any progress. Zhua Fifan nodded and hung up the phone. Ling put away her phone and looked at smiling Maitreya, who was still frightened and lying on the ground. She frowned and sighed, Maitreya, let's go to see Xiaoqin first. Then I'll lure him and you just need to find a chance to escape. Okay. The smiling Maitreya stood up and quickly picked up the dough from before and kneaded it with all his might. He muttered, since Hero Xiaoqin likes the knife-shaved noodles I make so much, then I'll make a few bowls first, then we'll send it over together. In this way he won't be so angry. Ling was a little disgusted by smiling Maitreya's flattering look, so she turned around and waited outside the door. While kneading the dough, smiling Maitreya didn't forget to kick his subordinates who were standing dumbly beside him. He said angrily, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and help me make the knife-shaved noodles. Whether or not I can successfully escape from great hero Xiaoqin all depends on this bowl of noodles, understand? After working for a while, the knife-shaved noodles were finally done. The smiling Maitreya and Linger carried the meticulously made noodles to Xiaoqin's room. Holding the tray, smiling Maitreya's hands trembled a little and he felt uneasy. He did not know how to face Xiaoqin this time. Just now he was still showing off in front of him, but in the blink of an eye he became a coward. He hoped that he would show the bearing of a venerable, be magnanimous and forgive him once. When they arrived at the door, Linger knocked on the door. Hearing Xiaoqin shouting from inside, the two of them pushed the door open and entered. Yo, shaved noodles Maitreya, you have a lot of ideas. You even know to assign me a waiter who serves noodles? TSK, not bad looking. I didn't expect you to be so good at being a person. This is much better than those inexplicable cooked wheaten food chefs from before. Seeing Linger walk in with the noodles, Xiaoqin's lips curled up, and he teased her without batting an eyelid. I think that great hero Xiaoqin is not very satisfied with those cooked wheaten food chefs from before, so I specially picked a beautiful waiter to serve you, great hero Xiaoqin. Consider it my small compensation to you. Smiling Maitreya said flatteringly with a smirk on his face. He even deliberately said the word, serve, especially loudly, which was obviously ambiguous. Alright, then leave her here. You can leave now, but remember to close the door when you go out. Xiao Qin nodded in satisfaction. He put on a perverted face and kept glancing at Linger. He even waved his hand at smiling Mithria to dismiss him. Ahem. Linger put the noodles on the table. When she turned around and saw that Xiao Chen was almost drooling, she pretended to glare at him unhappily and snorted softly with pursed lips. I'll leave now. Great hero Xiao Chen, please take your time to enjoy. Smiling Mithria was overjoyed. He thought that Xiao Chen must have been driven by lust and had no time to care about his rudeness. Thus he quickly turned around and ran out, not forgetting to close the door tightly before he left. After releasing his divine sense and sensing that smiling Mithria did not stay nearby to eavesdrop but went straight to his residence, Xiao Chen returned to his serious look. He pulled Linger over and asked, I finally have time to ask you, why did you come to Greenstone sect? Did Zhuo Fifan make things difficult for you after you took the forging materials last time? Zhuo Fifan didn't make things difficult for me, but... Linger did not struggle and obediently let herself be held by Xiao Chen. She said helplessly, but my master has been locked up. Zhuo Fifan ordered me to seduce you and then take the opportunity to steal the spiritual jades of Greenstone sect. He said that as long as I can successfully complete the task, he will consider letting my master out. Linger was also at wit's end. If she could not achieve her goal, being scolded after returning to the sect was a small matter. The main thing was that Grandma Nanshan would be locked up forever and could not get out. Now that she finally had the chance to be alone with Xiao Chen, Linger might as well tell him everything. Anyway, the two of them were already the most intimate of relationships, so there was nothing for her to be guarded against. Zhuo Fifan, this idiot is quite despicable. He actually used Grandma Nanshan to threaten you. He is not a master at all. Xiao Chen secretly cursed Zhuo Fifan for being such a jerk. He must find an opportunity to kill him and then save Grandma Nanshan. Linger sighed and looked helplessly at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen, what should I do? I don't want anything to happen to my master, but I don't want to make things difficult for you either. I've been in a dilemma along the way. Xiao Chen fell silent for a while and asked, what's the cultivation level of that idiot Zhuo? The sect leader is already at the great completion stage of level 10 Martial Honorable and his protectors are at the peak of level 8 Martial Honorable. If I want to approach him recklessly, I'm afraid it won't be easy. Linger could read Xiao Chen's thoughts and said with a bitter smile. Damn, that's quite high. Xiao Chen's expression froze and the corner of his mouth twitched. It seemed that he would not be able to kill him for the time being. Linger shook her head and did not speak. Even if Xiao Chen was at the Martial Honorable rank now, he would not stand a chance against Zhuo Fifan. Xiao Chen looked at Linger's bitter expression and thought for a while before saying, indeed, I won't be able to kill him for the time being. How about this? Don't be impatient, I'll help you increase your cultivation level first. As for saving Grandma Nanshan, we can only think about it at length. However, since she is useful to Zhuo Fifan, I don't think her life will be in danger for the time being. There's no need to worry too much. You'll help me increase my cultivation level? How do I do that? Linger blinked and asked curiously. She had always been cultivating to increase her cultivation level. She had never heard of any other way to increase her cultivation level. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.